Hey there. You might be
Got
wondering,
it going.
well, nothing. Well, actually, you're probably not wondering anything. You just walked in, so you don't have time to wonder anything. Anyway, unfortunately for you, your name came up on a wheel. You know why, right? Oh, because of that broad that you threw in the back of your car and chucked out the back and drowned her to death for some fucking reason. And, well, I don't take kindly to people that squander the gift of life or take it from anybody else. So,
Can't prove that was me.
well, here's the thing. I already know it was you. I don't gotta prove anything to anybody. I'll let the wheel do the rest of the work. You say your goodbyes.
We're talking about the most gangster of all traditions today. It's the Euthanatos. It's the Euthanatos. Now,
Featuring-
Kyle's been very excited for this one.
I
Which is why we made it. This is the second tradition that we're going over.
I really
It is
am.
It's also one of the traditions that is the most interwoven with the meta plot of Mage Ascension, because until the Order of Hermes stepped in, these guys were basically the main characters. Them and the Akashics, but the Akashics are more chilled. The Euthanatos are a very proactive, yet nihilistic group, where we're kind of going sort of with the usual format that we've been doing with the show. We're going over history first, and there's enough in here to almost make up a full novel. We got the bullet point version. So there is stuff that I'm going to leave out, but only because there's just so much to go over that we frankly don't have the time to cover all of it. And even Hermetic Hipster and Mage the Podcast don't have time to go over all this shit. Because these books are thick. And I finally snapped with these books where I said, I just can't deal with this stupid two-way dialogue bullshit we got going on with Mage Ascension. Does the wiki have the information? I went on the wiki, and sure enough, the entire history section was up there. I said, Kino, we're doing it. So thank you, Mage the Ascension, for having a decent wikia that I can use as reference. So when I'm looking at these books and I have no idea what I just read after I read 2 pages, I can now use you as reference. And his name is slipping on my mind from Mage the Podcast, but I know that he is a proactive member of that wiki that updates a lot of this stuff. So thank you in advance. If it wasn't for you, we would not be able to do this episode. Because, oh my god, is it frustrating to read Mage. You see why I put this off for so long.
Oh, yeah.
It took us until like in the 80s episodes before we started covering Mage. Alright. I want to do Wraith the Oblivion, but Wraith the Oblivion doesn't get views.
Well, no, because it's a terribly depressing game.
It's a black pill game, but it's a smart black pill. That's what
Was
it
there
is.
such a thing?
I had a lot of fun playing Orpheus, and I know if I run Wraith the Oblivion, we will have a fantastic time. But if Wraith the Oblivion just doesn't sell, I believe the trope is something along the lines of better as a let's play, because it's better to talk about Wraith than actually play Wraith in the eyes of a lot of people. Because the only real attraction I see with Wraith the Oblivion is people detracting the game instead of actually playing it. And it upsets me because Wraith is a really good system that nobody really has the time or patience to figure out. Because there's like a beautifully sad, bittersweet point to Wraith, but nobody wants to give it the time. And we're going to give the Euthanatos the time, because this episode is going to be more about exploring the ideas of the Euthanatos than doing this whole historical deep dive, lore dive. After all, we only got 3 hours max to go over all this stuff. So I want to get into the philosophy, because a lot of Mage content I see does not go over the philosophy of these groups. I actually want to talk about what do these people believe in, because I feel like that's something that we're missing with a lot of World Darkness, where the core philosophy gets skipped over a lot. Like, did Victor just join the call? Yes, he did.
Yes, he
No,
did.
All right, well, there he
no,
is.
Victor doesn't exist.
All right.
I'm a figment of your imagination, Mr. Depp.
All right, well, we got the Malkavian in the room with us.
Yep.
Yes.
All right, before I begin this episode, I do need to take a double shot. See, we're drinking Jack Daniel's Tennessee Fire. Let's go. 3, 2, 1.
Time for the second.
Okay. That was a double shot of whiskey. Let's do it. Okay.
Damn.
See,
We're
it's
going
good.
harder than me this weekend. I had a beer
It's
at
good.
like fucking 2 p.m. and then another
I
one.
had an IRL Cult of Ecstasy party where I have finally been initiated into the COE. And I had a fantastic time doing it. Let's get into it. Let's see. So, Have any of you read the essays and excerpts of Saint Thomas Aquinas?
I have not.
See,
I have
Sounds
not either.
based.
you have no idea who this is, do you?
No.
Nope, I'm not Catholic.
Well, you don't necessarily need to be Catholic for this, but he has this point called the argument from motion that he uses to prove the existence of God. Because do you believe in the Big Bang Theory?
It's plausible, but I think scientists just proved it not too long ago.
All right. So there had to have been something to start the Big Bang, because you expect me to believe that all the stuff was just floating in space and set itself off? No, there had to be somebody to set off the explosion that would have created the universe.
By science, it was gravity. Gravity pulling all of the particulate of time and space together until the pressure forced it to combustion.
But
And what
then where did the gravity come from?
And where did
There you
that
go.
stuff come from to begin with? It's that nobody has a legitimate answer for it. So the theological argument saying a being that identifies as God, or we identify that being as a god, is what started it. This is how the Euthanatos book begins, where even though this group is nihilistic, they at least believe that God is real. So when I read this, the first thing that came to my mind was St. Thomas Aquinas' argument. But also, are you guys familiar with Soren Kierkegaard? You're not familiar with them, are you?
No.
So
I am.
you know what existentialism is, don't you?
Yeah, existential, like cool, rad, all that stuff. You know, stupid.
Okay, like, existentialism is the question of why are we here and why do we continue to exist? Where
Because not existing is boring as fuck.
the conclusion that Soren Kierkegaard came to is something along the lines of, we exist to ascend, that Earth is something like a testing ground. This is all a big stage and God wants to see some people dance. And then when the dance is done, then we'll be judged, and then we'll either go to heaven, hell, or wherever after death. Where ultimately you should continue to live an honest and God-fearing life. Well, you don't really need to be God-fearing either. You just need to live a good life, because something somewhere out there is evaluating your progress. And then after your death will be your, say, when you turn into results of your test. And that's going to decide whether or not you move on. You can say in the comments down below that I might be misrepresenting Kierkegaard, but dog, this is existentialism. You get out of it what you put into it. So these were conclusions that I came to, because I'm more of a Camus guy myself when it comes to existentialism. And
I'm just whatever.
But the Euthanatos say that something created the universe. We have names for it. We have names for this entity, but ultimately we will never fully understand that entity, because it's on such a cosmic level of power that we will never wrap our heads around it. Now,
Yeah.
to marry this to World of the Apocalypse, we have a name for the entity, the Wild.
Yee.
That the Wild, wherever the Wild came from, created all of existence. And in doing so, you remember that we went over this with the Red Talons episode, where the Wild created Gaia, and they would eventually go on to create the Weaver and the Worm. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Where the Wild had multiple aspects to him too, because the Euthanatos believe that there were multiple Wilds that were in the same area, where you had Brahma, you had Shiva, Akasha, Pandemonium, Void, whatever name you want to assign to them. We can only really refer to them as gods, because that's the only unit of measure that we can use to compare these beings, because they're on such a level that we cannot understand them. We have to create a unit of measure and bring them down to a level that we can understand without actually understanding what they are, is what it is. And these primordial beings were so great and powerful that nothing could exist in their presence. That if something else was to come into existence, it would pale in comparison to what already existed. Now, Kyle, in say tabletop RPG terms, do you know what the DMPC is, right?
DMPC?
A
Yeah.
player character
Yes.
that your DM is running that exists next to your party, basically to get your party from point A to point B.
No.
It's one of my favorite characters.
Is
Yeah,
what that is.
I don't I mean, it's weird because Hair's the closest to that, but like he's your pack totem. He doesn't travel with you necessarily.
Well,
it's a lot worse than Hair.
Because imagine if Hair participated in every battle, could not be downed in combat, and could take out enemies in one hit.
Oh yeah,
and
it sounds
took
boring
most
as
of the loot.
Because that's what would have been like to exist next to these beings. Where any adversity that you have come across, that being could just handle for you, and you would spend the rest of your existence in that being's shadow with no chance of ever drawing a name for yourself. Something Vampire the Masquerade with the Camarilla is what the big issue is there. So these beings begin to realize that existence is just going to exist like this, and there's no real point to us living. And from that emptiness of existence came a vibration. And that vibration was known as the Om, the everlasting song of the universe. And from that vibration, existence was allowed to enter the world, where now we're getting humans, plants, animals from this vibration, where the existence of nothing has willed itself into existence to defeat its own pointlessness, if that makes any sense at all. But these beings still knew that they couldn't really exist in the world with humanity, so what did they do? They sacrificed themselves. Danu looked at her husband Dawn and killed him and scarred his body so that the changelings may live. Parusa divided his body into multiple pieces in order to create the cosmos, the levels of existence, and the cast. Zeus split Kronos open so that other gods and spirits could exist. All of these different beings that we refer to as gods broke themselves off into pieces in order to create the spirits that you find in World of the Apocalypse, including the Wild himself, where the Wild took the piece of his body that he could afford to lose, tore it off of his body, and then threw it into existence, where that would eventually become the Weaver, where from that piece of himself that he discarded, all these different spirit beings fought for supremacy until eventually the Weaver established dominance amongst herself, became the spirit of preservation and purpose, and then rose to her ascension in the Triad, so to speak. So it was just the Wild and Weaver for years and years. But we're not done with this story, are we? Because nothing dies. And we went over this with Werewolf 2. Nothing ever died because the Wild just continued to create on Guy's body. Nothing ever died. Nothing needed to change. Everything just existed. And the Weaver already assigned what was going to do what. So that's it, right? We just sit in our chairs and just look at what we made forever, and what we made never changes. So what's the point of going on then? And then in that pointlessness, one spirit looked at it and said, I know what we need. We need death is what we need. That spirit, according to the werewolves, would become the Worm, who then willed himself into power, and through sheer force of fear and of fear of what he could do, rose to his level where he could be on the same level of the Weaver. And some called him Finn, some called him Yama, some called him Pluto, Apwash, whatever kind of death deity name you want to give him, he came into existence. And he rose to the power that he would rise to. And through him, things that were created by the Wild would be destroyed, scattered, and then that energy would be sent back to the Wild for him to make something all over again. And it was good, right? Now we have a wheel of existence. Now we have a cycle, so to speak. You're born, you're given purpose, you die, and then your dust is returned to earth, and your soul is sent back into heaven for you to be reborn as something else. And this is the wheel. Now, the alternate name for the Euthanatos is the Chakravanti, the wheel movers, or the wheel spinners, or something along those lines, where the whole purpose of I need to turn on my fan. I'm sweating my balls off in here, dude.
I mean, I've got a fan on already, so.
Walls.
That was a terrible way to interrupt that.
Now, my feet are cold. No, wait, my fingers are cold.
With the Chakravanti, back when they were called this, now in the West they're called the Euthanatos, but this group refers to itself as the Chakravanti. Everyone else calls it Euthanatos, the same way that Japan calls itself Nippon, while everyone else just says Japan. It's like that. And they say that we're existence, the reason why that we're here is that we're to ensure that the wheel moves. Because once in a while, the wheel gets stuck. Something either lives too long and starts taking progress and attention away from what should be in its place, what should be the next generation, the new thing, the change. And sometimes something is causing change too quickly, so that thing needs to be removed. They're a force of death that doesn't kill people because they enjoy it. They're killing people because change needs to happen. Change is unavoidable. Change is part of nature, and therefore stuff needs to change. We are the Adjustment Bureau going around making sure that existence happens the way that it's supposed to. This is ultimately the paradigm of the Euthanatos, is what you're doing here. But does this lead to mass ascension, Kyle?
I don't know.
Now, the answer for that is no. There is no mass ascension with the Euthanatos. Because I was trying to figure out, what is the end goal of the Euthanatos? What are they trying to do? And they've already hit that point. They've been at their peak since they existed. Where, in order to peak as the Euthanatos, you just need to join the Euthanatos. And that's it. As long as you're going around adjusting the wheel, making sure that the wheel turns at the speed it's supposed to, that's it. And it's a zero-sum game with the Euthanatos. Stuff will live, stuff will die, that's it. There's no greater plan to have everyone ascend into nirvana. There's no greater plan to exterminate all the evil of the world. You're just here in your place, in your time, doing what you're doing, which is cause death where death needs to happen, and that's it. How's that sound to you?
It ain't much, but it's honest work.
Where... Now, Kyle, why do you like the Euthanatos above the Hollow Ones in that case?
Because at least we're doing something, for Christ's sake. The Hollow Ones just sit on the leather asses and bitch at everybody else. Me, you know what I'm doing? I seek out those that fuck up life, and I fuck them up for fucking it up.
Now, you know the difference between active and passive nihilism?
Yes. There's the difference between, I'm going to do fuck all with my life because the sun's going to explode in 3 billion years. And there's
which is the Hollow Men.
Yeah, and they suck and I hate them. And then there's life has no purpose, therefore we're kind of free to do whatever we want.
Which is the Cult of Ecstasy and the Euthanatos.
Absurdism.
Where ultimately the Euthanatos know that suffering, conflict, strife, that's a fundamental part of life. You're not going to have world peace. The Euthanatos are looking at world peace and are laughing at that. It's like, say, the Assassins of Killer 7 or MD Fuck from Cruelty Squad. You think a trained assassin is going to solve all the world's problems? Do you think that's going to happen? Take a guy that killed people for a living and put him in that position of power. And watch how quickly things will fall apart. Because the Euthanatos know that they're not going to be that kind of savior, and they're not supposed to be. They're not going to be. There's not supposed to be a savior that's going to come in and solve all the world's problems. Even if the Nefandi grow too powerful, the Tenocracy grow too powerful, anything grows too powerful, the Euthanatos will stop it, but something else is going to take its place later down the line when that Euthanatos isn't around to stop it. Or they are around to stop it, and they can't stop at that time, and someone else needs to come in and take their place. That's what which is,
in a way, I like it a lot because of one reason and one reason alone: balance within the world.
Yes.
I like it because, no, they aren't looking to be the saviors of all mankind. They aren't looking for some grand plan for mass ascension of everybody. The whole thing about it is that we are here to make sure that everything keeps spinning so that maybe one day somebody who has the potential to make life better can have that potential. And the people that fuck up life don't get to fuck it up anymore.
And they're looking at stuff like Gehenna or stuff like the Apocalypse. They're looking at the Sabbat trying to accelerate Gehenna, and they're saying, life is going to continue after Gehenna happens. Where the Euthanatos might be proven wrong, because if the Crucible of God happens, they're proven wrong, but... Well,
if the Crucible of God happens, doesn't he just reset everything anyway?
He does, and then the wheel starts all over again.
So they technically are right. Life does go on.
And then with the Apocalypse, they're saying, why is the Guru Nation just throwing themselves at this? If the Apocalypse happens, then life is going to continue in some way, somehow, because the worm will be content with the world's destruction, but who's to say that the game isn't going to start again on some other planet off in the distant horizon? You think that when Gaia is destroyed, the Wild and the Weaver are just going to look and say, oh, well, there goes our toy. It's not like we can just go to another planet and start this all over again.
Well, no, they can wait another million years, and then everything will start growing itself again.
Like the extinction event where, say a meteor hits the world, kills everybody, we're all dead. Say time will pass again, life will come from the dust, and then we'll have a whole new world with new continents, new oceans, new atmosphere. The life on here might not even breathe oxygen.
Exactly.
That kind of stuff.
Life goes on.
That's what happened to the dinosaurs, you know? Yeah. Like, at this point, this is like some fun speculative biology.
It really is. It's like
that.
My favorite big example. Sorry, I don't mean to get off topic. Go ahead.
It's because the Euthanatos will just look at this and saying, if we die, we die. Why are we stressing this much about it? Why are we this scared of death? And
no one lives forever.
And that's the goal of the Euthanatos now, where they're not trying to achieve mass ascension. They're trying to make the world at peace with the idea of death. Because culturally, they've been going around, how in Western civilization we have personified and anthropomorphized death itself. With the Grim
he's
Reaper.
A cartoon wolf that tried to fight Puss in Boots.
And that's kind of eases the idea of the Grim... It kind of eases the idea of the Grim Reaper then. Because if you have a face, a name, an identity, a character to it, then when it happens, you're assuming that's going to be like the stories you've heard of it, and you're going to go into it saying, at least I know something going into this. Or say with Asian cultures, how death isn't scary at all. Like if you die, it's going to be sad. We're going to miss you, but you're going to come back some way somehow.
Yeah. In the end, death is a neutral force. It lacks neither cognition nor volition. Therefore, it lacks the ability to be evil.
It's going to happen to everyone because they're looking at the progenitor saying, you've got the drug that makes you live forever, okay, but how many times you're going to keep taking it before you eventually kick the bucket? Or you die some other way and you live in a fate worse than death and it's going to be your own fault for it happening. Or then the Fundi, where they're worshipping demonic and evil entities that cause death, when they themselves are going to lose themselves to their dark powers and are going to die with the rest of the world. We're saying, don't try to avoid it or fetishize it either. Say, don't get so comfortable with the idea of death that you say, pick up an AR-15 and walk into the nearest supermarket or anything like that. You don't want to do that either.
Well, no, because then you're interrupting the cycle. You're sending people to their demise long before they're supposed to.
It's the episode of Billy and Mandy where they visit Father Time and everyone has an hourglass. Where how you're supposed to work with the hourglass is you leave the hourglass alone. You don't touch it. That's what you're supposed to do with this. Just let the sand run its course, and that's it. If you die, you die. It happens. It happens to everyone. It's all going to happen to all of us. Bill Nye sang a song about it in Smelling Friends.
Did he actually?
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
It wasn't the real Bill Nye. They got Mark M to voice him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The same guy that voices Mr. Boss.
I used to scream that shit in middle school. Bill, 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 Bill.
Well, yeah,
and then Bill Nye flies into... His hot air balloon flies into electrical wires and he explodes. But it's all right because he comes back as a ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
don't they say in science that matter cannot be created nor destroyed? Henceforth, there's a life after death. Suck it, atheist.
And also, you have the whole NPC theory where we've only got a finite amount of souls, and now we just got all these different flesh sacks walking around.
What the fuck?
You think it's a crackpot theory, but sometimes I swear that's the real deal, right? Just look at some sort of idiot in the supermarket or in the hardware store, and I think you don't have a brain, you don't have a soul, you're just walking around like you have the same intelligence level as an animal.
Fuck. I mean, I cannot deny that. Ah, shit.
You work in a retail job like that, and you swear that gets you to believe that the NPC theory is real.
Yeah.
Alright. And now with the whole entropy deal. You notice that the Euthanatos' big focus, their sphere of interest is entropy.
Yes, that's their baby. It's what they're supposed to do.
Now, why they focus this much on entropy is that they begin to realize that entropy grew too strong and is beginning to outlast dynamism, which is the Wild, and stasis, which is the Weaver. Because the Weaver is the big enemy here. That's the villain to the Euthanatos. because the Weaver took the wild, tried to bind the wild and failed, and bound the worm, and the worm said, "Well, the wild split himself into pieces and managed to exist after that, so I'll do the same." Where it was the worm copying the wild that created the triadic worm, which kind of recontextualizes the idea of the worm, because the balanced worm accepted that this is the end, this is death, this is where my legacy ends. I will split myself off into pieces so that something can exist after I die. And that's what the triadic worm came into. But the triadic worm is worse in every way. You don't know your own job anymore, because I guess the person that created you wasn't around to mentor you as to what your job was supposed to be. So we get the Beast of War, the almighty idiot that just goes around and destroys stuff. Defiler, who's going to holds the world in her palm and takes the place of God, where God is no longer around in the world of darkness, but has accomplished nothing and only takes what already existed and makes it worse. And Consumption, which is the only force that could cause the apocalypse, but is now gone because of the Croatan. And that's the world we live in now.
Yep.
Where I remember Hermetic Hipster was talking about the Euthanatos being a goth subculture. This isn't goth to me. This is metal. This is doom metal. This is black metal when I'm being the Euthanatos. Where
Fuck yeah.
Where now the world has gotten worse, that the triadic worm is in power. Nothing is ever going to get better from this point on. No lives really matter, but we're going to keep the world going on. So even if it destroys us, we're going to step in where death and entropy has failed, and we will become the force of death and entropy. We will become Grim Reapers. Is their ultimate objective.
Bro, why are they sound like Space Marines, bro?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
You know what? You know what I would actually use as reference for Euthanatos? When I say use this anime as a frame of reference when making Euthanatos. I'm actually being dead ass with you. Bleach is what I would use.
I did not watch a whole lot of Bleach.
Yeah. Where Ryan, you're familiar with it, right?
Yeah.
Because you're entering this whole soul, of course I'm referring to early Bleach, where you're entering this society of Grim Reapers that live with this mantra and culture of death, and you go in, all the rules sound alien. It sounds like you're just nonsensical murderers, when no, this is how life and existence is supposed to work. Quit trying to interfere with it. And so you quit trying to fight it, which Ichigo does, and instead you become a part of it and assimilate yourself into the Soul Reapers, the Soul Society. And it's almost like a happy.
I can see it now.
Yeah, where like that. There we go. Ichigo Kurosaki is a Euthanatos. It is. I'm pretty sure Archie's going to be very happy when we say this in the video.
Yes,
now,
he will.
Now for the actual group itself, the Euthanatos. But they called it themselves the Chakravanti. I'm just going to call them Euthanatos, because that name just sounds cooler to me because of the culture I was born in. Alright. So they began in the Indus Valley with Hinduism, of course, where this is a group that's so old you can't really trace back to a specific origin point. We say, if we were to date ourselves, it would be 4000 BC. That's where we're going to say that we existed. It's like some point during come on. I want to say Neolithic, but that's D&D. It was that period of human history where we began to domesticate animals, form villages, settle down, make tools. That began in 10,000 BC.
Prehistory, caveman, ooga booga.
Where a bunch of cavemen got together and said, we're going to become Grim Reapers.
Yeah, they were like, do you know what? The rising ape and the falling angel. I drew the 10th circle and what was the quote? You said the 10th circle and the triangle or something?
Yep. I'll catch the left circle of my triangle and light the tree of life.
Nice.
And what you had with these Euthanatos, of course, we're going to bring up Joe Rogan's Stone Ape theory. You're taking mushrooms, you become smart. You're seeing you're getting into contact with the spirits. You find out that the spirit world is real, that there is life after death. They can reincarnate, and so they begin preaching it. They teach morality. They start dividing the future. They perform funeral rites. They start forming a society, what we would be known today as human society. And they observe life and death, where somebody's born, time to celebrate. Somebody died, time to have a ritual. And then after somebody dies, we'll come together in memory of that person. And every culture has their own little version of a wake, so to speak. And everyone tries to like doing small improvements to life, saying instead of just eating all of our food in one sitting, let's hold onto it for later down the line. This disease, this rash is cured when we put this on it. Let's start hoarding all that kind of stuff, and people start living better lives because of it. Where now with the Euthanatos teaching what death is supposed to be, people now see death as, say, the end of the journey, but you want your journey to keep going on for as long as possible, or you want your journey to end when it's supposed to end. So you're going to do these tips here and there as to how you're supposed to live. When it comes to destiny, to me, you have determinism. I'm more like a soft determinist, where there's factors in your life that you just could not control, and it was going to decide what kind of person you're going to become. You couldn't have done anything about that. But you can decide where your destiny lands you up at. Where sure, you're probably going to live this kind of life because of the circumstances you were born into, but you ultimately decide and have control over your life after that point. Where they're telling you that you're not on some sort of destined path where you're just going to do this and die. You need to have a proactive part in your life where you need to do these things to make sure that you die at your time, at your expiration date. You can't just go through life as a mindless zombie, because that's not how this works. You still have a brain, and we can wake you the fuck up. This is how you ascend and become a Euthanatos. When you figure out what death is supposed to be, learn your place in the world, come to peace with the idea of death, and then make sure that you teach other people about what death is supposed to be, so that when they die, they're not scared of this.
So,
Yep. Yeah, say it.
So, in other words, what Mewtwo said in the Pokemon movie, I see now that the circumstances of one's birth is irrelevant. It's what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are.
Exactly.
Yes. And you have, of course, the first Komatha, where this is 2000 BC. It's a little event they want to bring up in their history, where two cultures clash. You have the Aryans and the Kyber fighting. They're these nomadic, warlike cultures, and they fight over here. They just really felt like they wanted to tell you that story. The story I don't really think has a part in Mage the Ascension, but they wanted to tell it to you, and so I did.
Yeah.
And so I kind of chopped my ass with Mage Ascension because there's a lot of non sequiturs in these books. But they didn't really form as a group because the Euthanatos start off as a bunch of scattered group of rabbis and teachers and senseis who taught about what death was supposed to be, but none of them really formed any sort of unity until that clash between the Aryans and the Kybers. Because when they heard the stories, they said, oh, they believe in this, they believe in that. Well, it's kind of like what we believe in too. And so they started looking around where this group called the Dravidians fused with the Aryans, and in that fusion formed what could be considered the creation of the Euthanatos as a, say, proper group. Because now we're having death cults, like death teachers, meeting and realizing that their stories are the same, and combining those ideas into one singular idea as to what death is supposed to be. Where, I guess that is where the story begins, I guess. That makes sense now that I say it out loud. And then you have other stuff where, like, the caste system starts in India, where it's like the people that are going to teach about death, they're going to be the priest killers, and those high up on the caste system will teach all the untouchables about what death's supposed to be. And then Europe will have, say, your pagan priests going around talking about death gods and their stories. Not for you to fear that these death gods are going to happen, but more to give you a face and identity as to who you're going to see when that death happens, and that you should recognize that face and not be afraid of it. Even if you don't see that face upon your death, you're going to go into it expecting to see this, and this, and it's going to calm you in those last moments. Where, this is a dumb idea that I just had. Like, Sausage Party kind of had that idea, in all honesty. Where, instead of just going into death, pissing and shitting yourself and panicking, instead going to that idea of death with some sort of belief as to what it's going to look like. Because even if the belief is wrong, it's still going to give you comfort in a way. And there's nothing inherently evil, shifty, or bad about that idea itself. So, is saying what I'm saying making any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as time goes on, where we're going into more like Indian history, do you want me to go over this? Because this is kind of like a lot of like broad stroke stuff that happens in very quick succession. Because
it's a pretty dense history if it starts with fucking Hinduism.
Yeah, because like the Vedas would be written, and then the Dravidians and Aryans would blend in with the Vedic Empire, and essentially like all these different groups that existed in India would then mesh into one, and now we have a single unified Chakravarti belief. Is ultimately what that story is. Just to really summarize that story.
Yes.
Because it's let's go into detail. Let's go into detail. No, it's not as interesting as you think it is. You don't want me going over every single detail. And
now you have to.
Well, now we're going to go to detail with this one, the Akashic Brotherhood, because there's an entirely different group off in distance, the Akashics, that say, "Oh, you'll send to Nirvana. The cycle is made for you to escape from. We're going to teach you how to escape from it. And if you don't succeed the first time, we're going to upload your memories to the Akashic record. You'll come back and we'll like download the memories back into your brain, and you can begin the whole reincarnation process from where you left off." And Euthanatos said, "What? You're trying to break a cycle? No, that's not how it's supposed to work." And these two would end up fighting with each other, where they would come down into this area next to the Himalayas, and it would start with the death of this guy called White Tiger, where the Akashics were saying, "Who killed this guy? Did you kill this guy?" And they didn't like the way that the Akashics, that the Euthanatos gave this kind of shifty, like, half yes, half no kind of answer. They answered like in this very evasive way, resulting in the two groups going to war with each other. That war lasted for 50 years.
So
Amazing.
basically, like the events of World War I assassinating Archduke Ferdinand.
Basically, yes.
The war went on from 850 BC. Oh, sorry, it's not 50 years. I gave you the wrong number. I had a fucking dyslexia moment. It went on from 850 BC to 535 BC is when this happened. And during this fight between the two, some of them would lose their minds and become marauders from, say, the Akashic Brotherhood reincarnating themselves, and then they remember how they die, and then they couldn't handle that experience and that trauma, leading to their brains breaking and becoming marauders, or some Euthanatos becoming so hateful of their enemy that they ended up becoming infernalists instead and started forming the Nefandi. And you have these groups fighting each other back and forth. You had this entire group of Euthanatos that broke off during this time and started experimenting with vampire magic and became the Nagaraja. But that's a story for a different day.
Yes.
And this group would eventually be kind of sort of absorbed into the Cappadocians, but they're their own thing, kind of sort of. We need a dedicated episode to go over all the different individual bloodlines that don't have enough content to make a full episode.
Yep.
It's a pizza.
The odds and sods of Vampire Society.
And the weirdos. And this battle would continue going on, where you had stuff like the Battle of Three Rivers, where that was like this fantastic. That was the highlight of the war, where Thanatos mages harnessed the Sarasvati, the Ganges, and Krishna rivers to create this big damn water spell that smashed the Akashic Brotherhood, and it was awesome. And then eventually it ended in 335 with Buddha reaching enlightenment. Is how it ended. Where Buddha said, "All right, we get it.
That's one way."
He said, I am Siddhartha Gautama. I have become awakened, and I have come to this conclusion that we can both agree on. That, yes, death and suffering is going to be a fundamental part of life that we need to accept, and that death is going to happen. We need to accept death. But at the same time, if somebody wants to escape that cycle, they should be given the liberty to do so." And both of them looked at that and said, "Sounds good enough." And then they both negotiated a peace treaty under Siddhartha Gautama, who is now Sakyamuni Buddha, and they shook hands, and now fight's over. We don't have to hate each other no more. And
Why
so
can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?
Is kind of what happens, where the Akashics are going to go off into China and Japan and Southeast Asia and do what they do, while the Euthanatos are going to continue to spread from India outwards until they eventually get to Egypt, and then from Egypt they go into Europe, and then their ideas continue, where the Akashics are okay with having only like a small portion of the known world at the time under their purview. Because China was not the size it was back in the day. You had the Great Wall, and that was it. That's all you had for your fucking dynasty.
Well,
We'll talk about the Akashics some other day, because the Akashics are another really complicated story, but I don't feel like we need to go into detail with the Akashics just yet.
Everybody wants kung fu fighting.
That kind of is what they are. Where it says, the whole of the Akashic Brotherhood, we're here to teach you how to reach heaven. Oh, you're now distracted by the whole martial arts thing. Okay.
I mean, hey, martial arts are cool. It's not their fault.
Yeah, it's they're very much based off of like Kinshiro from Fist of the North Star, where that's legitimately a spell they have. It's like they touch your pressure point and then you explode. That's a Akashic Brotherhood spell. Where, once again, like everybody wants to skip over the belief systems of some of these guys, and like this is what we're going to, like the ultra belief system. And then as that battle's wrapping up, you have this event called the Night of Fana, where we now need to bring up this other group. The Batin is what their name is. God's sakes, it takes a long time to form this name. But thankfully, there's a nickname for them called the Batini, who are this group of Arabic mages that practice magic that's mainly focused on subtlety. They're trying to skirt by and escape with as much magic as I can before it sets off paradox, is what they're trying to do here. But their name directly translates to the subtle ones, is what that means. Now, what would their paradigm be, given that they spring off of the Euthanatos? How can you pervert this idea?
The subtle one. Hang on, what?
Easily.
What do you think, Ryan?
What's your idea?
Oh, not by me.
Oh.
Put down in the comments as to how you become an evil Euthanatos.
You get corrupted by the worm, I think.
So these guys would eventually...
You preserve immortality. You make immortality. You do what the progenitors do, but fucking worse.
Where the Batini would eventually become Islamic, but before that idea, what they're trying to do is that they're trying to find out what the point of this is. Like, there's got to be something going on here besides just perpetuating a cycle. There's got to be something else going on here. The Euthanatos say, no, it's not our job to find that answer out. The Batini are saying, well, fuck you. There has to be some sort of answer here. And so it's this schism that started on 514 with the Night of Fana, where they would emerge and then break off from the Euthanatos, but they wouldn't really become the force that they are in Mage Ascension today until Islam would come around in 900. But, you know, they mentioned it here because they lose a decent chunk of their mages to this idea, and then they would be gone forever once Prophet Muhammad would talk with Archangel Gabriel, and now that's an entire group of mages that you cannot bring back into the fold, because they're now so dogmatic in their ideas that if you try telling them that they're wrong, they'll kill you for it. Is what it is. And
literally.
And then they have this period called the Years of the Shroud, where it's a period of mystical obscurity happening from 500 BC to 384 BC, where wards against time magic prevented modern mages from divining events of this era. It turns out somebody was fucking with the time sphere, and now the divination spells that the Euthanatos were using with entropy and time no longer work. So a lot of stuff that gets past them during this time, where a lot of people are going around fucking with the wheel, and this is just a year that they bring up as saying these were struggle years. AKA, you, the storyteller, this is a good year to have your Mage Ascension game centered around the Euthanatos take place in. Do it. Do it during this time.
Literally, you gotta prevent the fabric of reality as we know it being fucked, essentially.
That sounds right up my alley.
Somebody's messing with the wheel. We gotta solve the problem.
I honestly, that's really funny. We spent the first half of this episode talking about, like, they don't really care about mass ascension, but then they do shit like this, where they pull out the dirty jobs that really matter. Like, wow, the fabric of reality is in the balance. You take this guy with a gun that can make stuff decay by pointing at it.
Yeah.
Get that guy to do it. And then he goes back to his 9-to-5 job of killing people.
And what would happen in around 327 BC? Let's see. One Alexander the Great would enter the story, right?
Oh my god, I'm thinking of Iron Maiden song now.
Which one?
That song. Alexander the Great.
Yeah, the song about
From,
Alexander the Great.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it
And
was the album Lost Somewhere in Time. Such a good ass.
Somewhere
fucking
in Time
album.
was, I think, one of the last great Iron Maiden albums.
Badass.
and they're looking at Alexander the Great and saying, "Oh, he's brought Persian and Greek priests with us. Now's a good time to check the progress report as to how our ideas are forming in these two countries." So we're looking at, oh, well, how are the Iranians dealing with death? How are the Greeks dealing with death? Okay, cool. And when Alexander retreats, to say, "All right, so this is where we're going with this. Let's go. Let's check in on these ourselves." They're checking out the Persia, and they're finding out, oh, our ideas have turned into Zoroastrianism, where they believe that there's this big good and big evil that's starting to cycle. Okay, cool, that makes sense. Let's check on the Greeks. They have this guy called Hades, and he married his niece. And there's this other guy, Thanatos, that works with them, and Hecate, and Charon, and the Erinyes. Little would they know that all these groups were existent in other forms, aka Charon from Wraith the Oblivion, and the Erinyes would be called the Black Furies. Where
I need to speak to your manager.
yeah, no, what?
I'm sorry, I can't disassociate.
But the ultimate idea was death was a force that was beyond what gods and men could control. Where, yes, you're getting it right, but let's take it one step further. What's that island over there? Is that the Celts? Let's see what they were doing. And they walk over there and they're saying, oh, they believe in sacrifice, reincarnation, and fate. The exact same stuff that we believe in. Oh, it's almost like this is where the story changed the least. How that happened? Like the telephone game changed the story, and then the telephone game kept going until it's changed back to being the story it started with. All right, almost improbable, but it's cool that it happened. All right, our Skyline time is done and just walked right back over to India and went back to what they were doing.
Well, they got it figured out. Let's head back.
Yeah. And then comes the 7th century, where I think I've fucked up the year of Islam. Did I say 900? I got that year wrong. Sorry, guys. Yeah, retraction.
Yep.
Ah,
I don't
you're
remember what year it
forgiven.
was.
See, what year did Islam start? I have Google in front of me, Bob. 610 is when it started. Okay, just flip the 9 upside down and you get the actual year.
Hey, dyslexia.
Shit.
Yeah, it's okay. I suck at math.
Little
So Islam
dyslexia.
happens. You remember the Ali Batin that I mentioned before, the Batini? Now they take off. And they're saying, hey, heaven is a thing. If you follow this really oppressive set of laws, you can ascend to heaven. And the Chakravantis say, dog, what the fuck? That's not how this works at all. And they start fighting with these guys. And then they find out that, oh no, the Roman Empire, they're no longer pagan. What happened to Hades? What happened to Pluto, guys? Oh, he doesn't exist anymore. Now we have God. Now we have the devil. And they're saying, well, that's kind of like Zoroastrianism, isn't it? No. Once you die, that's it. What? And they're looking at this saying, well, now the story's in danger because now you're fucking up the story, and now it's so far thrown off from what it was meant to be. You lost your minds. And now we have groups like the Cult of Ecstasy coming in, messing with this. You've got all these different heretics. You've got the Celestial Chorus throwing the story off. You've got the Verbena throwing the story off. And they're looking at themselves just fingers in their scalp, just like digging their fingers in their skull, saying, this is terrible. You went to the wrong direction with this. Well, now we can't sit in India no more. We've got to go over into these other parts of the world. And all these other mage factions that were in there get on their throats because, there's only so many nodes and cairns to get quintessence off of, resulting in the Euthanatos running into a lot of problems here and there. One of the stories being Sirdar Rustam's journey in the 13th century. He was a Thanatos mage from Isfahan, and he awakened, and he went off on this pilgrimage to unite all the world's death mages. He went to Japan, he went down to South Africa, he went to Ireland, and everywhere he goes, he finds death mages that are broken off and have this wrong idea as to what the Euthanatos are supposed to be. He says, your paradigm is close, but let me adjust the knob a little bit. You got your finger on the button. Here's how it actually works. And he's going around making all this progress. He goes to Byzantium, and he meets the Golden Chalice. These practitioners of, for God's sakes, I always mess up this pronunciation, Chthonic, like chthonic. Is that how
Yeah,
you say it?
Chthonic, I think, is correct.
I think so. Yeah.
And he's talking with there's older guys that do Gaelic medicine, they do Roman alchemy, and he says, all right, you guys are close, let me adjust the story. Good. He goes to Maz Zimbabwe, he talks to the ghost people, the Shona tribe, and they're healers by day, punishers by night, system on the story right. Good. He goes over to Ireland, the Morgans, their blood-soaked traditions. They say, oh, you got this woman with 3 faces? All right, let's just adjust the story a little bit. You're good. And his motto, his slogan is, you are not alone. And thanks to him, you reunified the Euthanatos after they went into this part of the world, scattered again, and he's the one that brings them back into a more unified idea of the Euthanatos. But they're different from the Chakravanti because you've been in these cultures and these people for so long, it's hard for you to adjust your paradigm to perfectly fit the idea of the Chakravanti in India. So instead, like, a happy compromise is made, where it's kind of like a vampire bloodline, like, say, old and new clans Zimichi, or the Bruja old clan and new clan, or country gangrel and city gangrel. You're the same thing, but you differentiate in a way that is distinct, but not so distinct that you need to be considered something else, is what it is. At least to my understanding, that's how they define it. And here we go. We have the story of the first Samashti. Happens in 1304 to 1314. In 1304, the same guy, Rastam, calls emissaries from all of his groups that he's talked to for a great gathering. They travel from Eurasia and Africa to meet on a single building that's got one magical foundation and one node. You have great cultists, you've got Celtic shamans, you got Indian karma weavers, you got Japanese death cultists that are worshiping the Shinigami. And he says, we have this meeting, we're going to call it the Shamasti, or the Red Kumatha, depending on whatever you want to call it. And you had all these great archmages around this time. You had Kalak, you had Penthilius, you had Perceptha. Oh my god, I'm struggling with these names. But you had some key players there that, if you are interested in following these stories, the wiki has all their life stories up on the page. And I'm pretty sure that Lazar of Sigia has talked about these people at some point.
Johnny, welcome to the jungle.
There it is, exactly.
We got fun and games.
Welcome to my world.
We got fun and games, we got all these different names. Where...
Awesome.
And eventually they would debate for 18 months in the year 1314 after doing these meetings. They've been doing these meetings for 10 years, and they say, all right, we are going to create this place, we're going to create this law, this is going to be our base, we're going to set up all these different bases for us to meet, and we're going to create a set of rules for ourselves. We're going to call it the 8-spoked wheel of the law, where it was called the Chodona, is what it is. They make their own litany, so to speak. It's this unified doctrine that blends all these traditions together and say, even though we might be different in some regards, in some aspects, we can at least agree on this. Yeah. Where, good, right? Somebody finally writes the litany after, I don't know, how many years goes by?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We took us a minute because, we did a lot of traveling and we fought with the Akashics for like 3,000 years. And then we had to travel the world and figure out how everybody else dealt with death. And now we're dealing with this Islam thing. And then we had a couple of splinters off. So, yeah, it took us a minute to get those in order.
In the wise words of Bender, it was about time.
It was about time. Now, for what the Tridona is, as for what these 8 laws are supposed to be, they go by Indian names. I'm going to try my best to say these. All right. Here's your litany. Tell me what you believe of these points. All right. Pravabnava. I'm already struggling with this. We believe that there is a cycle of death and rebirth. We can all agree on this. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay, yes. All right, next point. The Hiranya Garna. Oh, fuck me. We believe that there is a unity of creation. That this is a wheel. Everything on the wheel is connected. There's nothing that's outside the wheel. We agree on this?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Moving on. The Kala. We believe that there is an inevitability of time and decay. Everyone's going to die. Time is going to pass. Nothing can be done to stop it. We agree on this?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. The Gopaya. We believe that there is a necessity to protect this cycle from corruption. Do we agree on this?
I'm good with that.
It's almost like they're taking over the role of the Geru Nation by doing this.
That's probably why I like
literally.
them so much.
You remember when we were making 3.5 when we made the Rivals, where it was a group of say Silent Striders that had a direct rivalry with the Euthanatos and tried to say, hey, you're stepping on our toes, this is our job, and they would directly compete with the Euthanatos and try to undercut them, try to take their jobs away from the Euthanatos.
Get better, I guess.
That's what it is. All right. Rule 5, the Diksha. We believe that that death should be recognized through ceremonies as an initiation to your death. Do we believe in this?
I mean, yeah, having a funeral is customary.
All right. We believe in that. Good. All right. The Tiaga. We reject the idea of pleasure. We reject the idea of hedonism. We do not believe that life is meant to exist only for you to have fun and only pleasure. You're going to experience death and loss at some point. Do we believe in this?
Well, balance in all things, it makes sense.
Yes, because this is where they clash with the cult of ecstasy, because they say, no, guys, you can't be happy all the time. You got to actually get up and do work every once in a while.
Oh, come on, man.
Man,
Put the fucking blunt down, pick up a gun, and help me out, and help me bury this body, okay?
Okay.
If you say
What if
so.
you douse it in sepia? It'll make the corpse smell nice.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Use it to cover up the scent. Do whatever you have to do. Just help me dig the fucking hole.
Okay.
The sadhana. We believe in the necessity for spiritual advancement. You can't just be a sleeper. We need everybody to believe in the same stuff that we believe, the life and death cycle. Do we agree on this?
I mean, as long as we're not making people... Well, actually, no. We kind of have to make people aware of our peaceful ways by force. It's the Euthanatos. I'm iffy on this one, but I understand why we need to.
And last point, the Daya. We believe that we need compassion in teaching people about death. We're not giving somebody a hard truth. We're providing people with comfort for what is eventually going to happen to all of us. Do we agree on this?
I'll go with this, yes.
All right. And with that, they said, all right, the 8 wheels have been made. That's all the points that we agree on after 18 months of debating. All right, signed into law. There it is. That's on all of our walls of all of our centuries. This is law. Do not deviate from this. And everybody agree with it.
Yeah, okay, I'm good with that.
Nice.
There it is. That's how you sign a litany right there. You don't have people sticking their fingers into each other's chest and tearing wounds open like the Red Talons did with the Silver Fangs.
That's because they can't read. They were mad about that.
There it is.
Isn't that what King James tried to do to try and stop, like, the Protestants and the Catholics from fighting each other?
I think so.
Wrong. You motherfuckers ain't coming out of this room until all of you guys can write down a version of the Bible that you guys can agree on. Or something. I don't know.
And then it wouldn't be until, say, the 14th century, they knew about the Council of Nine traditions, but didn't consider themselves to be members because, well, once again, this wasn't really a thing just yet. So they finally get this invitation from the Order of Hermes saying, we need to band together and try to unify ourselves against this budding threat that we partially are responsible for making, the Order of Reason. Okay, well, what does the Order of Reason believe in? Transhumanism under one man, one God, one identity. And that spits in the face of what the Euthanatos want, because what the Order of Reason want, nobody dies in their perfect world.
No. That ain't gonna fly. Where's my fucking gun at?
So they would join, but there was one issue. The Batini were also part of it.
Huh?
So, the group of Euthanatos that split off to become... By this point, the idea of them being Euthanatos had left. They were now their own thing, where they were directly Islamic mages. Where... and their ideas were so strict and so firm in what they believed in that they differentiate themselves from the social chorus, saying, no, you can't just believe in God, you have to follow this set of rules that we made. And one other group that...
starting to lose the plot, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and then this would eventually get to the point where the Batini would become so sick of the of the nine traditions, that they would eventually quit, secede from the Union, and then just section off the entirety of the Middle East for themselves.
Bruh.
Except, the Syndicate's going to do what the Syndicate does and manage to get in and make some money.
SHOPPING.
And then
shopping.
there was one other group there too called this. We don't talk about these guys no more. The Solificati, where their story dies with them. We don't talk about these guys anymore.
Okay, so they're like the pedo uncle that nobody talks about.
Yeah, they were this group of alchemists that went down a dark road, and now nobody talks about them.
Yup.
Yeah. Where, and now they've what was left of the Solificati has died, and what existed of them has now been absorbed into the Order of Hermes, and the parts that deserve their deaths have been discarded. And really, you start off with 7, and then the Society of the Sons of Ether wouldn't join until later, and then the Virtual Abs wouldn't join until much later. And that's basically how the band got together. And the Euthanatos
Sounds like fun.
The Euthanatos were kind of on even footing with the Order of Hermes. When you look at, say, who's really making progress with the Nine Traditions, the Order of Hermes, the Euthanatos, and the Celestial Chorus are the ones that are pulling the weight between these guys. The Dream Speakers, by this point, have become so scattered, and their ideas are beginning to die, where nobody's really going along with their shamanistic beliefs anymore, due in part to the Celestial Chorus. Same thing with the Verbena, where the Celestial Chorus during this time was just strangling the life out of both groups, even though they're supposed to be a unified group. The Euthanatos will look at the Akashic Brotherhood and saying, "You stay over in Asia, motherfucker. Don't you come over here. This is our business. You go over there. You're trying to reach heaven, right? How about you just die and go to heaven already? We'll handle things on Earth if you want to leave that badly."
In the wise words of George Orwell, all animals are made equal, but some are more equal than others.
That's what it was. And really, it was just that these 3 groups that were pulling the weight, doing the most work at the Ascension War. And unlike the Dream Speakers, who, if anyone just criticized the Dream Speakers back then, the Dream Speakers just took it and said, "Oh yeah, I guess we do kind of suck. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. If anyone said something to Euthanatos, the Euthanatos would shut you the fuck up right then and there. They didn't take anything from anyone.
The fuck did you just say? The fuck did you just say, you little shit?
Like, they would step out of the room and say, "Well, kind of rude, right?" And then it would just come right back to the room and say, "What was that? What was that? Yeah, that's what I thought, you fucking pussy." And then they'd spit in your face and then smash something that belonged to you before they stormed out of the room.
I like the Euthanatos even more now.
Yeah.
Based.
And they disagreed with the Celestial Chorus and the Akashics, but they said, unlike the Celestial Chorus, we're not going to kill you because we don't like what you're saying. You have the right to say it. We're just going to know that you're wrong, and people will come around to believe in what we believe after you fuck up. And sure enough, people would do that with Martin Luther. And yeah, the Euthanatos, with their arms crossed, like the smug look at their face, looking at Celestial Chorus, fall from grace, and he said, "You know, we told you you were going to fuck up one day, and sure enough, you did. And we didn't do anything about it. You messed up on your own. Sucks to suck, right?"
Yep.
And the Akashic Brotherhood, their ideas would kind of sort of, they would eventually adopt ideas from the Euthanatos, because the Akashic Brotherhood, their ideas of Buddhism would would end up finding a place in Japan, but they had to compromise with a lot of things that the Euthanatos were doing. It was very much based off of that idea. And then Shintoism, Shintoism is still a thing in Japan, but it's not the religion that used to be anymore. And Taoism kind of fell to the wayside as well, where you still have Taoists, you still have Confucianists, but those are minority religions in the countries that they were formed in, where Buddhism is the main religion everybody goes for in this part of Asia. And if you don't have a Hindu sect there instead.
I'm good with Buddhism. You just kind of sit under a tree until you reach enlightenment.
And the Euthanatos look at themselves saying, "Do we really need to do anything else besides this?" And said, "No, just let the pieces fall where they may when it comes to the sleepers, where the ones that are going to awaken will awaken, the ones that die will die. It's fine. We don't need to really micromanage the world the same way that the Order of Hermes and the Celestial Chorus want to do. But instead, we're going to focus all of our assets into making sure nobody messes with the sleepers." So they're going after vampires, they're going after werewolves, other mages, specifically Nafandi, and making sure that their lies don't enter the ears of humanity and lead them down a road that they can't come back from. Is what they're doing. Along with another op that they'll do, they'll go to Wraiths from Wraith the Oblivion, and they'll free them from the Giovanni. They'll snap them out of those prisons and say, "Do you see the light? You see the light at the end tunnel? Go! Just go! Just quit giving a shit. Just go into the light already." And they'll like shove them into the light, so they'll reincarnate or go to heaven or whatever happens to a Wraith after that happens.
Literally just like just shoving them into a box and then kicking them out the door.
Like, what are you still doing in the Shadowlands? Get out of here!
What the fuck happened to all my ghosts?
Yeah.
Where are they? Fred, what the fuck happened to him? I don't know. That one guy over there, that punk guy over there got rid of him. What the fuck?
And really from this point on, like, the story's more anecdotal because we know what happens with the Euthanatos here. Like, colonization, the rise of Christianity, imperialism would cause some of their death cults to fall to the wayside and become demonized like what would happen to the Thuggee. Because in the world of Mage Ascension, they weren't the monkey brain eating human sacrifice cult that they were in Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom. But they were demonized to become that after the British took over that area. And the Euthanatos are looking and saying, should we do anything about this? No, it was their time. It was their time to die. Just let it happen. Just let it roll over. Something else will take its place. And it did result in some Euthanatos dying, but the Euthanatos aren't really vengeful. They didn't say the entirety of the British Empire needs to burn for this. Instead, they said, all right, they died, so they died.
Yeah, it looks
What,
like
you want me to
England
do
was
this
a
for
lost
everybody?
cause. Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
What else we got?
Yeah, it's almost
like
Darwinist. It's almost Darwinistic as to what they believe in too, because if you're strong to survive, you survived. If you're weak, you died.
Yup.
Big deal. And
Yeah, they're almost like cats, you know.
Yep.
Don't they say like cats will eat the corpses of their owners or something like that?
yes, where
Interesting.
that scene in Batman, the second Batman movie where Catwoman becomes born, where like Selena Kyle falls to her death, and then the cats start devouring her body and turn her into Catwoman.
Interesting.
She's something like a zombie in that movie, is how she's set up.
Huh.
I like Catwoman was like kind of creepy in that movie, and I like that better than what you usually get with Selena Kyle.
Hang on, what, the Halle Berry movie?
Yep. Yeah, like you have stuff like that. Well, they kind of like breathes the fart cloud into her nose in that movie.
Just
What the
no,
fuck?
hang on. There's no way that actually did that actually happen in the movie?
Yeah, like this kind of has like this like green fart cloud that comes out of his mouth, and like Halle Berry breathes it in and becomes Catwoman. No, I'm talking about like the 1992 Batman, where the cats start like eating Selena Kyle's fingers and turn her into Catwoman from that happening.
Weird.
Yeah. And in terms of like anecdotal kind of stuff, you have the Shamashti of 1832, where we have this new guy, Senex, where he comes in. His name is spelled Senex. Where he comes
Xanax.
and he's from
Xanax.
and he's from Africa, and he says that science, stop giving a shit about science. We need to focus more about spiritualism. We're missing the point with science. It's now calling people's minds. Nobody gives a shit about the occult anymore. We need to at least do something proactive about this. And in doing so, we're going to change the world for the better, not destroy anything. We need to start telling people about these stories of death, of passion, of longing. And we need to stop telling all these white folks over here in Europe to quit resisting these ideas. These are good ideas. And of course, he would come in and you have the Romantic movement, where we mentioned Lord Byron before. That Cult of Ecstasy guy, he was inspired by Euthanatos writing, is where it came from.
Yep.
So, I guess one hand did wash the other, but thanks to your ideas, you breathe life back into the Cult of Ecstasy after that entire group is going fucking nowhere as a tradition.
Yep. Didn't really work.
Where it did eventually lead to dark romanticism, where you had writers like Edgar Allan Poe and Hawthorne, where they were writing about these like evil dark forces that nobody had any control over, and it freaked people the fuck out, but it led to a lot of good writing down the road, right?
Nevermore. Who's the one knocking upon my door?
See, and they're looking at this, and then World War I happens, and now shit's starting to get real again. where World War One and World War Two happened, where you had the Euthanatos. They did not join the Nazis. They strictly fought against the Third Reich because, after all, a lot of Euthanatos were skin colors. Brown, right?
Yep.
So a lot of them were being sent to the damn concentration camps ahead of their time. And they were saying, oh, you're killing all these Jews before they're supposed to die. That ain't cool, bro. So they fought Nazis and killed Nazis, and it was awesome.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
And-
Kyle's
Good
gonna
days.
do. That's what Kyle's gonna do with our game and shit.
Yeah,
and then
we're-
for me, I'm playing as a kid who's
Bro
being
just wants
kind of
to brew beer.
brainwashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to brew beer and he's being kind of brainwashed. We're not killing the Juden. We're just deporting them. That's all.
Let's say, and then it's, oh, well, turn your head and look at this, buddy.
Hey. Follow me
What-
down
what
this.
do you-
Follow me down this alleyway after work. I got something to show you.
Ooh, will it be a butterfly? Literally the ending of Mice and Men in a nutshell. It's literally gonna be that over again. Alright, just turn around, kid. Look at the little butterfly. Pulls out a giant scythe. I'm gonna cut your fat fucking neck now.
No. See, look up at the sky real quick.
Okay. What am I supposed to be looking at? Just blows his brains out.
Where-
Poor Looney.
Okay,
Yeah,
I can
I'll
go
step-
home now.
The Euthanatos do take a lot of credit for a lot of assassinations for the figureheads of the Third Reich. I don't have any specific names for you. They did miss Heinrich Himmler. Where,
Yeah, what
You
a
know that guy-
fucking letdown.
yeah, like the fucking Tremere anti-tribute got their hands on him and embraced him.
Oh yeah, and then they forgot about Hermann Goering. He got how do I say this for not to get YouTube mad? Ganged 16 autistic clowned by Malkavians.
That's what happened to him.
Yes, actually.
And I think the Euthanatos, you say, like, who killed Goebbels, they would probably take credit for that.
I mean,
Why does
hey,
his
we got
name
one of
sound
them
like
at
a
least.
turkey?
Where there's like, you remember how in Glorious Bastards ends in the movie theater, the Euthanatos were doing stuff like that.
Oh,
I
what
like
a
to see
great
my
time it
Nazis
was.
when
We
I
was
see
eating
them.
good then.
Yes. And they're looking around and saying, well, hold a minute. Some of us are losing the plot and are just killing indiscriminately. What's going on here? And they look around and they find out, oh no, the Nafandi have infiltrated Euthanatos. Killed a Nafandi.
Yep. We
Where it
were
was like-
doing so good, something had to go wrong somewhere.
Where they only found out about this in 1942, where Michael McPherson, a knight of Radamathus, sheltered an Austrian wraith named Fritz Altschmann, who told the stories of the Holocaust and said, oh, by the way, the people that were doing this were wearing your colors. What? And they looked around, they found the guy, dragged him back, interrogated him. As it turns out, he was Nafandi. And it's not only had the Nafandi infiltrated, but they had been in the Euthanatos for years, masquerading as different members. So the Euthanatos had their own sorts of Heimdall situation, where it turns out that some groups, some Nafandi were like dragging down the name and identity of the Euthanatos, but unlike the Ephemeris, who took 60 years, they wiped this shit up in 4 years.
Good.
They're-
Damn.
All of them gathered up their members in 1946 and had this massive military tribunal where they executed every single one of them.
Literally the Nuremberg trials of the Euthanatoi.
Yeah, that's what happened. So, yeah, you read about these guys, and this starts coming up as like metal as shit.
Yep.
Dude, they're just fucking based as fuck, man. I
See, this
love
is
them.
why I love the Euthanatos so much. We clean up our messes. It's our whole fucking job.
Dude, I love how opposite contrast Ludwig is gonna be to Gerwin and shit. It's
He's
gonna be
just
funny
gonna
as
be
fuck.
such a happy dappy character, and I'm literally there just to get jobs and kill people.
Literally.
Like, hey, this guy gunned down 50 people in front of a mass grave in Poland and is back on leave. Kill him. Got it.
And that you killed all the Nafandi traitors, but you didn't get every traitor. There was one story yet to be revealed, but he would not reveal himself until 1990. The traitor's name was Vormus of Helikar. Because, as it turns out, he had been planning to betray the Euthanatos this entire time. And them discovering the Nafandi, killing them, threw everyone else off his trail, and he got away with his betrayal. But his cover was blown after he murdered a Hermetic mage, Mark Howard Gillen, after he was discovered mutilated and drained of his essence in Cape Town, South Africa, I do believe.
Huh.
And his murder was traced to one Richard Somnitz, top assassin of Vormus, and the consanguinity of, well, his little code was called the fuck this name. Of eternal joy.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I don't blame you.
The exposure, he got exposed, he got identified by the Euthanatos, and it led to the corruption of, but his involvement did lead to this entire corruption of a chantry in Africa, and as it revealed, oh, this is entire like murder cult where they were just going around killing people in order to say accelerate the apocalypse is what they were doing. And
What were the accelerationists called, or were they just called that?
The accelerationist, yeah.
Gotcha.
And
do what you could do with the Euthanatoy. You could literally do like a 90s noir sort of crime dragnet kind of thing.
Yeah. Where they're trying to find these guys, but as it turns out, other members of the Order of Hermes that had been corrupted by Vormus end up throwing all these different false leads and red herrings, so Vormus escaped, and he did not pop up again until 1996, where his assassins started killing members of the Verbena and Sons of Ether, forcing the council to arrest one of his, was one of his co-conspirators, Theora Hetrick. Though she had to fear of the eternal joy, some council members tried to convict her and hide her from her own shame, but ultimately she was cleared of most of her charges. As it turns out, she was like this Manchurian candidate that was being forced to go along with Vormus's plans, and was brainwashed the entire time through mind magic. Phoenix, who's still alive during this time, comes over and takes her under her wing, says, "You're going to pay us back for what you did through penance crusades. I will personally oversee your parole." Is how that works.
Yeah, this is Vormas we're talking about, right?
Yeah, no, Senex catches his sleeper agent Theora is who he's telling this to.
Oh yeah, Xanax.
Because Vormax never does these murders himself. He always gets someone else to do it for him. And then eventually they track down where Helikar is. I believe I can get an exact location for you as to where this is. Come on, give me a country, you jackass. Come on.
Hey, jackass.
I am getting no country as to where this is. Great.
And now time for a commercial segue.
Right. Well, forget it. Pennies on a dollar. It's a detail that we can go past.
Yep.
But regardless, the chantry's found. As they storm in again, as it turns out, Vormas, once again, also fucking escaped. Congratulations, your killer is in another castle. Great.
Bruh.
Why don't you move the whole fucking castle?
So as he comes in, Vormas is gone. He took the entire fortress with him. And now, that explains why I couldn't get a country of origin for where the castle is, because the castle moves. It just makes sense,
moving castle.
Yeah, Vormas the murderer's moving castle. But the thing is, they still haven't found this guy. Because he's still going around doing this, and this is your plot line for Mage Ascension. Find this guy who's creating Manchurian candidates, start killing people at random.
Ooh, a plot hook.
Yeah. Where that actually would make for a very good antagonist in the game. Where, Kyle, we saw, we watched, Black Widow at a bar together.
Oh yeah, was that what that was?
Yeah, we were watching Black Widow, yeah.
Yep.
Where that was the main plot of that movie. We got this Russian guy who's creating all these like sleeper assassins, and he's going to scare them around the world, and whoever he wants to see killed, he can kill them at a moment's notice. But he will never do it himself. He'll get a widow to do it for him.
Basically.
Yeah. So that's the whole plot here.
I mean, when you're Grand Harvester, you can kind of just sit in your pool of blood. So
this has been the main mission of the Euthanatos since that point. Find Vormus, kill Vormus, stop letting them get away with this kind of shit. And a lot of like the bad stereotypes about the Euthanatos, they're started by that guy specifically.
So it's just one fucktard.
Yes, it's one guy who's got a lot of power and is getting away with too much stuff.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Bad
But
apple
here's the
ruined
thing.
the bunch.
Yeah.
It actually says in the book, like, those who try to kill Vormas will eventually be plagued by his own bloodlust. It's like a curse.
Yes.
Oh, like the Blood Angels.
Basically.
Yes. Where your obsession with trying to kill Horus will lead you to see everyone as Horus, and you'll start losing your mind, going off into the street with a knife, and you'll just stab people at random.
It's like he who stares into the abyss stares back, or some shit.
Yeah,
Type
exactly
shit.
that. Where he's almost become this primordial force of murder, so to speak. Where I know Mage Ascension was trying to marry a lot of ideas to Exalted, because they're like writing Exalted and we're going to say, this will be our masterpiece game, this will be what sweeps D&D off the map forever. We'll definitely usurp D&D with these numbers. And then 3rd edition came out and all of your plants went up in smoke. Yeah. You put all this money behind Exalted and made no progress with it. But regardless of that, it's almost like Vormas is an Exalted, so to speak. Because a lot of stuff about him, like the level of power he's on, it's very similar to the Exalted of Exalted. And then you go over, and what's the last event of history that happens? The Avatar Storm, right?
Yep.
Where they refer to the Ravnos Antediluvian as the Vampire King of Bangladesh, is how they refer to him.
Oh, that's fucking cool. What the fuck?
And he wakes up, and he kills millions. And like, not only do the traditions, but the Tenocracy have to mind wipe that from everyone to prevent the entirety of Asia from falling into chaos. Where they're going around with like Men in Black, like eraser guns, saying like, "Oh, you didn't see anything that happened here." Click.
Little pen, you know.
Because once again, somebody's spinning this wheel too quickly. But ever since that happened, now the wheel is moving too fucking fast. Too much cosmic shit is happening at one time. And now the end times are approaching before the end times are supposed to happen. So what the Euthanatos are doing is kind of like what the Werewolves of the Apocalypse are doing, where they don't fear the apocalypse, so to speak, but it's not supposed to happen today, is the end goal.
I'm on board with that.
They have a lot of similarities with the Coronation, don't they?
I, again, am on board with that.
And
Yeet.
look at the red stars in the sky, we know where this goes. And I will not be touching the information in Mage 20 because I do not like Mage 20.
Cringe.
So sorry if you like really liberal preachy books. I'm not giving that any attention.
Silence, liberal.
Yeah. So there we have it. What do we think of these guys as an ideology?
Based as fuck.
Now, Kyle, you also noticed when you were flipping through this book, how similar were the images in this book to Book of the Worm 1st and 2nd edition?
There was a lot of people strung up.
Because in page 13 specifically, you have a woman picking up a baby and holding him away from 4 different aspects of the worm.
Hang on, I gotta double check that because where the fuck do I got it?
Yeah, keep it off the OBS. But
Yeah, I'm pulling up my phone just so I can like actually zoom in on the page and see it.
Yeah,
like I gotta.
That sounds very beautiful.
And it's not just that one image, but it's multiple images where you get like Worm Beast and the same kind of pictures, the same kind of harsh drawing style that you see in Book of the Worm and the Zemichi clan books is present in this book as well.
That's fucking cool. 13, I might as well buy that book just for the artwork.
Because there's this, whenever you talk about like death, entropy, and World of Darkness, you all of a sudden start noticing that a lot of these pictures begin to look the same and look identical. Page 23, you have a man literally pulling the worm out of his face.
Oh, that's fucking cool as shit.
Yeah.
God damn, you're just making me want to go on eBay and like buy a copy.
Yeah. Because that's what I'm saying. Like, this book is fucking metal as fuck.
Yeah, I will say though, like at the end of the notable figures, there's some really fucking sick artwork in this book.
Do you want to go over the figures?
Yeah, I can definitely do that.
Pick one that you want to go over. Pick one.
So we were talking a little bit about Vormas, the Grand Harvester of Souls. And we talked a little bit about Senex, so why don't I talk about Fedora? Fedora is interesting because she doesn't...
I'll tip my fedora.
Did she literally call herself that?
Well, Fedora, I think, is how you're supposed to pronounce it.
That better not be pronounced the Fedora.
I think it's Fedora. I just pronounced it wrong because I didn't realize
it is.
Yep. So Fedora was a leading member of the Pomegranate de Mai. She was a companion, friend, and maybe lover of Haron, and known to history as Cygnus Moreau. So she was one of the few female members of the soon-to-be tradition. One of the first of them, matter of fact. She was the one who brought Moreau into the convocation. Moreau was a figure with a very soft voice and a lot of keen insight, and helped the Euthanatos come to be. Fedora spoke very eloquently of the ideas of fate and karma, and merged them into the idea of Tamal, or entropy, as it became to be known. Her fascination with Greek culture and scholarship, ran well through the Italian Renaissance. She was the daughter of a scholar and midwife, and hired considerable talents of Greek and Latin origin to help out a number of her father's friends within his studies as a scholar. She actually was first awakened during a bout with the plague, where she nearly died, in which Fedora claimed that she descended into the underworld and spoke with Persephone herself, where she learned of the purpose of death. And upon her awakening, became skilled with medicine, languages, and earthly magics. And many Euthanatoi healers will follow her example to this day. She focused mainly on the practices of entropy and life as her primary circles, but sadly met a very short end as she was killed by the Turks at the age of 26. After a mighty battle with them, she went out to the battlefield to try and recover some of the soldiers wounded, and then was later accounted as those missing in the battle. There was a note that she left prior to her being left. Let me see if I can find it, because it's much further along in the book. Give me a half second to see if I can track her down here.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in here somewhere. Oh, there's a
Fedora-
guy with a submachine gun. Yeah, it's kind of, that's the thing, is I really should have had this up here, because
Yeah, don't pop up in the OBS until we got the the idea.
No, I'm not, like I said, I'm on my phone, and that's part of the hard part. But
Yeah.
Jesus, the art in this book is awesome.
Yeah, it is. We got a picture of Vormus that I say needs some music over it.
Yeah, hang on, let me see if I can find it here.
It is.
Is this the first edition Euthanatos book?
First, because the first one is always the best.
Exactly.
I feel
want to
like
get.
The art direction for Revised, I feel like it lost a lot of charm when we went to that.
Oh, here it is.
Because-
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the same issue I had with Vampire the Masquerade, where all of a sudden all these pictures start looking the exact damn same.
Kind of like the same exact artist, or
Yeah,
just like the tone,
like
or
the
something?
same artist, and it looked too safe. It looked too sanitized. We didn't have the Nazi bra Zemichi that we had in the first book.
Yeah, I was messed up.
Oh my
Anyway,
god,
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, the letter left by Fedora was as follows after her death. I fear the caverns to dark Hades, waiting past the cut threads of my youth. The cold wind beckons from across the farmer's field. Does a field of my own, an Elysium field, await, or a Christian fire field for pagans such as I, or a shade field wrapped in spirits of the dancing dead? The fields are hungry for souls. Threads wind upon the spool, yet I cannot refuse the call. The scales have come up even. Why should I have any cause to weep? I will return anew. No field can hold my heart. Very, very much devoted to the idea of the wheel. Even through a more Greco upbringing, believe it, was what gave her power. It was her, Vermas, and Senex, which were the only three major notable ones. However, I did also find one of the concepts that I actually really liked, and I wrote that down too.
But the player character concepts, in case you don't have an idea.
The one I really liked was the EMT.
Oh,
with
yes.
his quote, "How much do you want to live?" This character, his grandmother fell down the stairs when he was 8. The ambulance didn't show up in time. And a mysterious figure known as Brett kept you company throughout most of your very, very secluded life. But with the memory of your grandmother in your mind, you decided to go to med school and focus on helping people. But the stress of studies and the constant late nights eventually broke you. And during a bout of deep depression, Brett reemerged and made you look in the mirror and had you reach your first awaken. It gave you the power to heal and to kill, the intuition to help shape skills, and thus you decided to pick up a new role as an EMT. It's a thankless job to everyone else but you. You were built a caretaker to the bone. Some say you're working off your childhood guilt, but that's not true. Brett, your grandmother, and many others have given you a intricate idea of the importance of life and death. Pain is a part of life, but should not be the last thing someone feels. And when you heal, you don't just heal the mortal wounds on someone's body, you heal their souls. Every restarted heart is also a jumpstart to a new appreciation for life, otherwise unfelt. And perhaps, if you're too late, a farewell kiss for the next time around. Your idea is to make people comfortable. Speak softly even when people are being short with you. Take care of everyone. Life is your specialty. Mind helps you judge. And prayer helps you if entropy is needed.
I feel like that really is just a good idea, like for Euthanatos Mage.
Yes.
Yeah. It kind of feels like that's how you would play a Euthanatos in the modern day.
Yes. That is, you quite literally have a life between your fingertips at all times of the day. And, you get to decide how that person goes. If their spoke on the wheel is now or has not come about yet. It's a very creative way to avoid paradox as somebody who deals with both life and death spheres.
And just don't get caught for medical malpractice. Just don't get caught for that.
Exactly. Like I was talking to, I think I messaged Vic about it earlier today, how I was thinking as a character when I build him, Gershwin should be just as adept as medicine as he is as at melee or firearms.
Yes.
Because it's the fireman theory. To know how to put out a fire, you need to know what starts a fire.
It's a fire.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And then for my character, I was thinking about sort of like, to put in D&D terms, a bard and an artificer.
You're the boozer.
Yeah, literally, like he's like, I'm good at talking to people. I want to be the diplomat of the group, but if someone puts me in a corner, I could shove them really hard because I'm a big kid, both metaphorically and literally.
I feel like we also need just a moment here. The award for best picture in all of Mage Ascension goes to this.
Hang on.
See, this image right here.
Yo, what the fuck?
Oh yeah,
that's
cool.
That goes
That's trippy
insanely
as
hard.
fuck.
Yeah. Kyle will have it up on the screen for me. I feel like this deserves
Yes.
a little bit of music. All right. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Come on.
Cool.
There we go. This is what plays in the back of your mind when you see this.
Evil. Fucking. Wizard.
That's enough of that. The song turns into Punk-O-Matic after that riff.
Okay. Either way, I mean, like, you know what that
But
looks
that's
like?
not the only image.
It looks
That's not
like
the only image
Dark
performance.
Wolf from Wizards.
Because he also has another picture. Here's his avatar.
Oh man, that's
Damn.
this
When he
whole
steps
book
sideways into the
goes
Umbra, that's
hard.
what he looks like.
There's faces in his
cloak of
clothes.
The
faces.
faces of the people he killed are in his cloak.
That's awesome. What
That's
the
so
fuck?
Sick.
There it
That's
is.
so
Yo!
fucking sick.
This is your final boss in your mage game.
Final boss. I'm taking orders from this dude.
Yo, it's like how in Doom the loading screen you see all the twisted faces and
Oh
shit.
yeah, the fucking
Yes.
thing going across the
If
that's so
we weren't
cool.
recording the Mage Ascension game, I would be playing just fucking Pentagram in the background anytime the Antos is on screen.
Oh yeah.
And there we go.
Then after that, for my character, you just gotta be playing that Bavarian yodeling music.
Yeah. See. So, shall we go into relationships? Who do the Euthanatos hate?
Quite a few people,
They
but
hate the Nefandi. They hate, specifically Clan Giovanni gets called out by these guys.
yep.
Hey, come
They-
on! What about the pizza? Hey,
They hate the Akashics. They hate the choristers. I mean, I don't think they like the Hermetics either.
Don't they hate themselves as well?
There's
Not
there's
really.
some
We're
brooding in
doing
it.
we're doing the work of the wheel, man.
Or,
I
like
roll
when
the
you
nickels.
first started Euthanatos, I imagine there's some guilt in it, but eventually you learn to live with it.
well,
Quite-
yeah, exposure therapy.
Is
Quite
that
literally for Gertie is like, don't be a pussy.
because they're looking at the Giovanni, and there's this moment they have with the they're looking at the Giovanni and they're saying, "Dog, we know what you do. You're not these like bumblefuck greasy Italians. You take people's ghosts and you fuck them, and that's something that you guys do on a regular basis."
You
It's not
fuck your
fucking-
cousins, you fuck corpses, you fuck ghosts. You're disgusting. You're disgusting. You gotta go. You gotta go.
Oh
Get 'em
yeah,
the-
buddy.
get 'em-
How
get 'em the
about I
fuck up.
fuck you now, eh?
They're
It's entropy.
They-
Fuck you.
They're looking at the Giovanni and they recognize that this is like a true evil in the world of darkness. That Clan Giovanni, there is no such thing as a good Giovanni. You all deserve your deaths, and that was a stupid fucking idea for the Glasswalkers to do business with them.
Well, yeah, but
Yup.
the corporate wolves are gonna be dumb.
Is like you just let money, something that's of this world and is going to disappear after a few centuries go by. You let this rule your lives, you stupid schmuckheads. You deserve what's coming to you.
Yeah, basically.
Here comes the money.
Yeah.
Money talks.
Now, how did you? Let's go over relationships before we go to say how you would operate as a Euthanatos in modern day.
So the relationships in this book are really hard to pick out from the dialogue that's going on in that section of the book.
And they're pretty small too because they don't really seek quarrels anymore.
No.
They're not involved in drama. They stay out of it. Like this, he said, she said, bullshit's beneath them.
It's all about the he said, she said bullshit.
Think about it, talking that shit. You believe with the family.
I fucking love Limp Bizkit. I'm not even gonna lie. I love
Oh my
Limp
God.
Bizkit.
Is that don't it's all one of the pages that's completely black. By the way, White Wolf, genius fucking idea on saving ink where we said let's take an entire image, let's just print black ink on it.
Literally the book of Nod in a nutshell.
It's like
It's just black.
The copies of Clan Book of Somber were soaking wet with ink when you were done printing them.
Yeah, it was probably a pain in the ass to press into a spine.
It's like, well, why did we lose all of our money because we did stuff like this?
Yeah, your artwork went insanely hard, but at what cost?
It's like
Literally.
it's the same as like with making the fucking guild books for Wraith the Oblivion. Here, you know this faction doesn't exist anymore. Let's make entire books about them. Let's make 13 guild books and sink all this money.
Yep. But yeah, so what's weird is that the traditions there isn't a lot on, but everything else there's quite a bit on.
Because there's some areas the traditions are saying they're not us. We work with them. They're kind of beneath us. We're not going to get involved in any of this drama. We need them to survive. Is ultimately what
Basically,
it is.
the Akashics are the Akashics hate us. They wanted to teach us a lesson. They believe in reincarnation like we do. It was a long time ago. Choristers, they don't like necromancy or assassins. They're almost as big a rivals to us as the Akashics. They do forgiveness and redemption, but, they think soullessness is more merciful than death, which is bullshit. The ecstatics are hard to predict, but they also need to realize that they made their bed, they have to lay in it. We don't really get the dream speakers all that much. The Hermetics, they don't really care about us, and they are also kind of mad after we took in all the refugees with Lord Gilmore, and we don't like them either, because they just kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. The Etherites, too many white bread chauvinists, they're materialistic and short-sighted. The Verbena have a very black and white sense of justice, and then they tend to believe in really short, sharp solutions to big problems. The Virtual Adepts, almost as white bread as the Etherites, but far less conservative. They don't flinch at death, sex, or raw power magic. they're modernists, and they're kind of looked down on by the rest of the traditions. They could be strong allies if the Lakshmists keep up the good work on the web. That's about it for all the traditions.
What do you mean my beer doesn't taste good?
That is the thing with the fucking Order of Hermes, because the minute that if anything doesn't go the Order of Hermes' way, they just lose their shit about it. That's what it is. They start ringing into the microphone if something doesn't go their way.
They just start fucking tweaking.
There's
man.
gonna be a lot of times where, like, actually, Vic, what was your mage character's name? Your hermetic.
Ludwig.
Oh, wait, no, I thought you were an aetherite.
I don't know. I'm on the fence of either hermetic or aetherite.
But if he
honestly,
does go hermetic, there's going to be a lot of times where, like, Gertie has to, like, grab him by the collar and smack the shit out of him to get him to shut the fuck up and focus.
Yeah, or like, no, don't go to the fucking Nazi aetherites. What? I gotta tell you something. I'm a Jew. Well, you're not a Jew.
Ich bin eine Jude. Meine
Nein.
erste Name Kaminski ist.
Nine, you're not a Yulden. Yuldens have like sleen noses and like webbed frog fingers, and they got these big, great vulture wings. You know, you don't look like an abomination. You just look like a normal man.
Du
strangle him. like Homer Simpson grabbing Bart Simpson by the neck. That kind of energy.
Nine. I'm not a Dukov. I'm just a little bit of a hold-up, that's all. Well, which, by the way, it's like a German last name that means you're tall and, like, stupid or clumsy or something.
The Big Oaf.
Yep. That's literally half of his character.
Quite literally just an oafish, rotund brewer.
Literally.
The funny thing about the Euthanatos is that they have a lot to say about vampires. A lot. It almost takes up a whole damn page.
They
Hello,
do
cousin.
quite a bit. But the
Hello,
Cliff
Gershwin.
The Cliff Notes version of vampires, the Euthanatos look upon them with a mixture of fascination and pity. They see them all as suffering from Gilgal and also kind of awakening at the same time. They don't know much about where all
permanent sleep and permanent awakening is what
basically. They don't know much about them, but they have a number of different theories. They're not sure if their power comes from what they did in life or the blood of Cain or like different.
It's Cain.
Yeah, we all know from us in the meta, we know that it's from Cain.
Have you never sat down with an elder and talked this out with them?
I mean, when your job is to make sure the wheel keeps turning and there are things that are actively defying the wheel, typically you want to do what you can to keep the wheel turning.
Given where they live, too, I'm pretty sure their only frame of reference with this for many, many years was the Kuei Jin, and that was it.
Yeah, basically. But a lot of Euthanatoi have been seduced or slaughtered or embraced, and it's really pissing the Euthanatos off. Then however, they do have some of the necromantic cabals that will track, rob, or spy on vampires to figure out more about them. But paramount of all of this is protecting the innocents from the sway of the Cainites. They tend to frown on those of vampiric appetites. And even the renegade bloodsuckers like the Sabbat and Anarchs are undesirable allies. Hell, the Giovanni are suspect at best or targets at worst.
And they go into big detail about the Nagaraja because the Nagaraja got their start from them. So it's almost like it's kind of sort of your fault, but you didn't really have any control over it either.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, we did start this whole death entropy thing, but it's also like that was kind of a spin-off that we couldn't really manage. And now we got to deal with it. But then again, like we always said, the Euthanatos, as we talk about, has a good track record of cleaning up their messes.
Where the idea of cycles got to the brains of the Nagaraja, where they became one of the 4 pillars of the Tamahe Ra, where you have all these elders that are asleep in the first city in the Shadowlands. And the whole plan with them is that we're going to intentionally like jumpstart a Gehenna scenario where all these other younger vampires die, so we can make room for these elders to come back and start living and start doing the cycle all over again. is what the plan
Bruh.
was. Yeah. And that was a plan that never got to go off because the Sixth Great Maelstrom destroyed the first city and all the elders inside of it, leaving a bunch of Nagaraja walking around with no real objective anymore. But
Bozos.
But the Nagaraja are like pseudo-vampires where they don't... They kind of have a start from Cain because they did use Cappadocian blood to get their powers, but they combined what the Cappadocians could do and what the Euthanatos could do, and they have this thing for torturing the dead. Because they feed off of vampires the same way that Aquagian can, and the same way that Giovanni can, but they tend to go a step further and will just torture the Wraith to the point where they wish they could die a second time before sending them into the labyrinth. And they think it's funny, and they think it's just they're having a laugh when they do this to people. When most Wraiths in Wraith the Oblivion just want to be left alone and really don't want to interact with anybody.
Yep.
Yeah. And then that bring up the changing breeds for a paragraph.
Yes, but they kind of lump them all together, which is understandable. There's a fucking lot of them. The changing breeds do tend to cause a lot of conflicts between death mages and most shape changers. The Garrow believe that the Euthanatoi carries something called worm taint. We all know what that is. And to an extent, it's not necessarily our fault that that occurs, because when your job is to keep the wheel spinning, and there are things that defy the wheel spinning, sometimes it's worm taint that causes that. So you have to be exposed in order to kill it. And you are literally a walking force of entropy. So of course you're going to come up on sense worm. It's not our fault. That is literally our job.
You have 3 groups that they're okay with, where it's the Bubasti in Egypt, where, we get this sassy cat pharaoh that's in the Shadowlands hanging out. And he's kind of doing our... he's kind of doing our job for us in Egypt, where, I guess we'll leave well enough alone. And a lot of the stuff that Bubasti can do kind of ponies off the back of the Euthanatos, where they looked at what the Euthanatos were doing and found a way to recreate that with Dream Speaker kind of magic. And the Bagheera, as we were going over into the Basta episode, the Bagheera are chill for the most part.
Yep. That
is.
and they also like the Excuse me.
Where
they also
everyone
talk to
likes the Korax.
I like the Korax.
Everyone likes the fucking snitch.
I encountered one back in 1994. Gave me a phone, and I gave him a shiny quarter.
You can't tell these guys anything confidential because they, by law, have to say everything to everyone.
Oh.
Hey, don't worry. Just a 7'5" tall Moldavian just walking around.
I don't know. I think a Korax, if he's good at yapping, I think it'd be rather useful. Throw somebody off their daily routine, just right into a nice pothole that I put some entropy on. Don't worry about it.
Oh, Uncle. Hey, Gershwin. You and I are of the same race. We're both God's chosen people.
Yeah. Now,
the fuck happened to your face?
Not sure.
Now, Ryan, question for you.
Yes, sir.
Do you think the Euthanatos know that the Naga exist?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Because they're doing the same thing ultimately, right?
Yeah.
Now, that would be an interesting plot to your game, where you're either playing as an Euthanatos and you find out that Naga exist, or you're playing as you're doing a changing breed campaign where one of your players is a Naga who's pretending to be Macaulay, and then they realize that the Euthanatos are onto them. And the kind of, like, cat and mouse race for the information game, it would be once that happens.
Or the Euthanatos' Naga kinfolk.
That could work too, where instead of the kin fetch getting to them in time, or like them being indoctrinated to the ways of the Naga, they awakened and became a Euthanatos instead.
That'd be weird. I mean, just like you're sitting there, or it could be just like a coincidence thing where you happen to be hunting the same person. Where, like, a Naga is chasing down, a high-level black spiral that has the ability to hide the worm taint, and the Euthanatos has been hired by, somebody to kill this guy that's causing a lot of pain to people. Well, then you've got two people going after the same target from entirely different angles.
Power
And-
Man when worlds collide.
Basically.
Now, this is surprising to me that they don't get along with these guys, the Ananasi. Where,
Well,
Spooner.
like, the Ananasi have the same shtick where they try to keep balance because you have the whole caste system with them too. Where there's Ananasi, you have the Wild, the Weaver, and the Worm. But I guess it's because so many Ananasi just lose the plot and become fanatics that the Euthanatos would want nothing to do with them.
as we've said in the Ananasi episode, nobody likes the Ananasi.
Because you're so tribal by this point with your Wild, Weaver, and Worm shtick. You can't be true to Queen Ananasa and be true to your caste at the same time. So it's going to break it. Along with that, we saw it with the comic at the start. We saw it with how everyone else speaks about the Ananasi. These guys are sociopaths at the end of the day.
They are.
Every single one of them seems to lack basic human empathy.
My little piece of God, Meep. He's scared of that spider. I don't think I should trust that spider.
I hate spiders. Give me the shotgun.
Exactly. Here you go, good sir. This is a makeshift 16-gauge shotgun that I made last week. Good luck.
What the fuck am I supposed to kill with 16 gauge?
Well, bigger explosion, right? And on top of that, it's more sure that the spider is dead.
8 gauge. You need 8 or 6 if you want to kill something. 12 will work.
All
but
right.
8 or 6. Lower gauge, bigger round. Unless you want solid slugs, then you can put something. You can put a hole in something the size of a dinner plate from 500 yards out.
Okay. And then just cuts off the electrical tape from the other guns that he taped together to make it the 8-barrel shotgun.
They all fire at the same time
How
too.
the fuck did this? How did I get here?
I don't
Fuck.
know.
See,
Oh, come on now, cousin. Do not complain.
Motherfucker.
We'll go back to Israel someday.
Motherfucker.
with-
Did your parents know my parents? Because I didn't fucking know your parents, okay? You weren't at my fucking bar mitzvah. I don't want to fucking hear it.
I don't even have any recollection of having parents. I just popped out of the ground one day.
See, with the rates. Now, a lot of people assume that the Euthanatos wanted to like go into Shadowlands and just fuck around all the time. That couldn't be further from the truth.
No.
Nope.
Where they're kind of like ghost police to make sure that if a wraith does use embody and crosses over to the Skinlands, they find that wraith, tag it, get them into the afterlife as soon as possible.
Yep.
It's
Basically,
like-
you go and you're like, whoa, Chief, slow down. First of all, what are you doing? And also, why are you not over there? Well, I have to take revenge because this guy cut my brakes. Leave that to me. You go to the afterlife. But I need to listen to what the fuck I say before I make you go over there.
Now, what the difference between them and the Silent Striders? The Silent Strider will stick next to a wraith the entire time and make sure that their business is done, or they'll say, "You know what? Hold on a minute, wraith. Stick around for a while. I got a job I need help with," and will prolong the wraith business. Meanwhile, the Euthanatos say, "I don't give a fuck what you're here for. Get out of here. Just go."
Keep the wheel
go.
turning.
Like-
You'll be back.
Yes. And next up, Changelings. They actually have something interesting to say about these guys.
Ooh, lay it to me.
There's a long familiarity between the Aided and the British Fae. But they're a mystery to most of the Euthanatoi. They seem to age and die like other mortals, but they slip past the usual workings of the wheel. Mostly because they reincarnate in different ways through the changeling way. No formal alliance exists between the traditions and the changeling houses, and there is just a respectful gulf between them. They sort of stick in their own lane to an extent.
The Slua are brought up by name, and they find the Euthanatos, if they find out about them, absolutely fascinating.
Wait, the
Hell
Slua like
yeah.
the Euthanatos?
Yeah, because after all, the Slua love anything that's dark and creepy.
I mean, I try not to be creepy. I mean, I put myself together. You know, I look nice. Try to keep up appearances and everything.
Explode. That was awesome, man.
Well,
I'm
you gotta
just
look at
doing
it
my
this way,
job.
cousin.
That's it.
You have to look at it this way, cousin. You're creepy in the inside. I'm creepy in the outside.
Yep. here's a treat. They bring up mummies in this book.
Quite extensively, to an extent, actually. Like, I'm kind of surprised that they actually bring up named mummies.
It was like a lot of ideas that would become mainstay staples of World of the Apocalypse actually got their start with Mummy: The Resurrection.
Cool.
Yeah. Because this game is basically a sister game to World of the Apocalypse.
Mummies is or mages?
Mummies to World of the Apocalypse.
See, we haven't covered mummies all that much, I don't think. Like, they were mentioned in Korax. I think they were mentioned in Macaulay. I don't know where else they were mentioned at.
Where the whole shtick behind mummies in their book is that the force of death, like the underworld, like the cosmic wheel, whatever you want to refer to it as, Da'at, says that there is an imbalance in me. I need to get some people. I need to take over their bodies after they die, bring them back, and make them respawn forever. So you can't kill a mummy. This is just going to keep coming back. And then you're going to come out and you're going to realign the balance of the world for me.
Interesting.
Basically.
And we are, Kyle, I'm going to let you know, we are going to do another episode on the set types because I've listened to our old set type episode again. I got a lot of stuff wrong that I need to do, that I can't just do one retraction video for. I need to
we gotta make a set height revised video.
Yes.
Remaster.
Yes.
Where after going into other splats with Mage, Wraith, and Mummy especially, I now have a straighter story. And because the whole thing with Horus is that Horus wasn't held captive by Set. He was just out trying to get a force going. And him and Isis met with the Silent Striders and said, hey, we're going to agree to take out Set this day, right? Yes. And then after they shook hands on it, the Silent Striders went and did the operation without Horus and then botched the operation.
It didn't go well, did it?
If there's one thing we can...
Private Ryan.
There's one thing we can agree about with the werewolves is that they are really, really impatient.
Yes, that is true.
No, let's not do this tomorrow. Let's do this today. Today, damn it. No, we don't have to spell today. We're doing it anyway.
Patton might not have always been right when he said a violent plan executed today is better than a well thought out plan 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
I want my cake now.
But it's almost like the mummies and the Euthanatos ultimately have the same goal. But it's just that, the Euthanatos are doing this while they're still alive. The mummies have to wait to die before they get the mission. Is ultimately what it is.
Yep.
Hey, they're two sides of the same coin. It's like
There
Tom and Jerry shaking hands.
Basically.
There it is. Now, shall we get off into the spells themselves? Now,
Yes.
Ryan, what do you think entropy does? See, take a wild guess. Is Ryan muted?
Let's
there he is.
see.
Oh my god.
Entropy. I'm guessing it does some random shit.
Now, what entropy does is that you're affecting the force of not just life, but it's the reverse of life sphere, where it's death related, but it's also about slowing down and stopping death from happening, along with manipulating chance and chaos itself with entropy. To the point where, mechanically, what you can do with entropy, you know how we have the reroll system where you spend willpower to reroll your dice?
Yeah.
If you cast an entropy spell on yourself, you can just re-roll all of your dice without spending any points whatsoever. Or cast a spell on yourself that prevents you from rolling ones. That kind of stuff.
Yep.
That's great. I like that.
This is how mechanically powerful entropy is as a sphere in Mage Ascension.
It's why every other tradition and technocrat faction are scared of them.
Because these are guys who can't botch their rolls if you're fighting a boss fight that is a Euthanatos. Where they're coming in, and if they want to kill you, they're going to kill you. There's nothing you can do about it. If you find out in your chronicle that Euthanatos is after you, that's it. You're not coming back from that. And even if you by the skin of your teeth manage to kill that guy, they're just going to send another one after you. And it's not like Vampire the Masquerade where you can escape the Sabbat, you can hide out from the Camarilla, you can, as a werewolf, escape your death from the Garo Nation. You can't do it in Mage Ascension. And even easier with the Euthanatos, in order to kill you, the Euthanatos just needs to know your birth name, what your face looks like, and they need to have one article of either clothing or an item that you have placed your hands on, and they can kill you from anywhere in the world.
So it's the Death Note.
Yes. Where that's essentially what it is. Now, you notice for the thumbnail for this video, we used the Death Note font for a reason.
Oh, yeah. Can't
Right.
stop my heart until it stops.
Well, that's the other anime
Great
that
song.
that would use this reference for playing Euthanatos. Light
you,
Yagami from
Ryan.
Death Note. That is almost perfect. That's almost a perfect Euthanatos. That's Euthanatos that just awakened, but has no point of reference or contact with anyone else in Euthanatos.
Has no mentor.
So he goes off his own and says, I have this power to kill whoever I want, then let me just use my own sense of justice. And then it's somebody slow burning where he doesn't realize that he's becoming Nefandi until, if he was going to realize it, he's never going to admit it.
Yeah,
ultimately
they're
what's gonna
happen to him.
basically fucked.
Yes.
Is it alright if I could, like, mention a character similar to that, where it's like kind of like a Euthanatoy gone wrong, or like a weird mix between a Euthanatoy and Nefandi, if you don't
What's
mind.
your idea?
Okay, so have you heard about, get this, Johnny the Homicidal Maniac?
I feel like I have heard of that. What is that from?
So it's Yonan Vasquez, the same exact dude who made Invader Zim.
I got the
Before he
comic.
before he made Invader Zim, he made this comic. So basically, long story short, despite what the name implies, Johnny does not actually like killing people. And basically, he is so frustrated about like how he really cannot, it was something about like he cannot properly create art, and fantasy and reality starts becoming blurred, where these two Pillsbury doughboys tell him that he has to kill people because he has to keep a wall fresh with fresh blood constantly, because there's a thing that'll come out from the wall, basically. I'm not going to spoil the story, but yeah, hell yeah. But
Yeah.
basically, what was my fucking point? Damn it.
Yeah,
I
there's a
swear.
picture of it. That comic is drawn like that. I'm looking at the panels right now.
Hell yeah. It's so fucking demented, but hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, essentially, it's like he's just killing for the sake of killing, and he doesn't even know why, basically. And in the 5th volume of the comic, long story short, he goes to heaven and then he goes to hell. And basically, he doesn't have a place in heaven or hell because he's a thing called a flusher that just cleans out the dirty work for heaven and hell, basically.
Yeah, that does sound like a
Fucking crazy.
Euthanatos, actually.
Yeah, literally. Dude, it's a great comic. It's very short, but like, fuck me, it's crazy.
Let's see here. Yeah, here we go. I got a panel for you right here. Yeah, here's what you're talking about.
Yep, literally.
There's a whole thing to it.
The schizo shit, basically.
I actually like this guy. I think is closer to a well, like he starts out as like a red cap almost.
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, especially with that comment there, because like the red caps have to keep dyeing their hair for it to stay red.
Yep.
See
I'm
it.
not gonna spoil later on in the story, but like, dude, it gets fucking weird, man. Especially with the meanwhile segments. Like, for an example, there's one where aliens abduct a retail store worker and make him fuck a chicken.
It's kind of comics where like stories could be whatever they wanted. Like same kind. I know y'all hate Garth Ennis, but Preacher is still one of my favorite comics for a reason.
Yeah, that kind of a. I really
They turned
miss
it into a
comics.
Netflix show.
They did. The show was kind of better actually.
You know, I kind of wish that more artists would return to that like 90s 2000s punk affectation. Like a real sort of Tony Hawk, Neversoft Studios sort of rebelliousness when it came to game tropes. It doesn't have to be pretty, but it has to be fun, it has to be memorable, and it has to make somebody upset.
where you get a few like accounts like that where you have webcomics, you have people on X that'll do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, but
But
the thing about all the stuff
Yeah.
on X is like it's so contemporary and politicized that like there's very clearly an agenda. It's rare that nowadays you get something that is just like a really straight fucking about energy to it. Like something that's completely off the wall, irreverent, ridiculous, but plays it entirely. I think Smiling Friends is the closest we've got to that in years.
where that's tipping the pendulum in the right direction.
It is. It is. It's still
Dirty
very like happy
water.
dappy compared to something like this.
Yeah,
But
nobody
it is-
wants Rick and Morty to die more than me.
It is just the right amount of irreverence to make it work. And I do agree with you. Like I'm sick of like the ultra nihilist millennial cartoons. And I think everybody is, which is why Smiling Friends was such a success. And which is why I
Breath of
really
fresh
hope
air.
that more people sort of invest in these indie studios that have these really gritty, irreverent ideas to make them something really special and memorable.
I'm still
And-
thinking about Xavier Renegade Angel.
I have not watched
I
that
love
either.
that show.
Now with the spells. Now necromancy is a thing that Euthanatos can do. They don't like doing it, but they say if we didn't do it, someone worse than us would. So we're gonna hoard all this necromancy magic for ourselves to make sure nobody, like, say the Giovanni, learns these secrets and then learn what can really happen with necromancy. Go. So they'll have a spell where they'll call ghosts. They don't like doing it, but they will. Where if it's a ghost that's just so stubborn, they just refuse to go into life. The light, they say, "Well, fine. Take your fucking revenge already." They'll take the ghost and just shove it into a corpse and say, "There, you control it, you possess it. We're gonna lock you in it. Depending on how many successes you get on the roll, where it's a ritual roll, then fine. They'll be able to control that body for that much amount of time. You go off, do your business. Once you're done, get your body in a safe position where nobody's going to discover you, drop over, and then get out of here."
I would
That's what-
definitely play one of those. I want to play one of those now.
A Revenant.
Absolutely.
And look around and say, well, we can't just have it be anybody, because that's going to be like a masquerade breach. It's going to be paradox, specifically, if that happens. Because if somebody says, hey, that's a dead body walking in the street, that dead body is just going to be absorbed in paradox, and everybody's going to forget it was there. So you have to at least preserve the body. You got to do a bunch of taxidermy, love stitches, hide the wounds, make sure the body is preservable. So you preferably want a guy who died of natural causes, who doesn't have a family that's going to recognize him on the street, or had a lot of friends that will recognize him. You want to find nobodies that just died alone for this kind of spell. So, and along with
Gershwin,
that,
maybe that's what I am. Maybe I'm a reverend.
Well, I guess we'll see.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I still smoke weed. Hey, you want some?
and
Get that stinking shit out of my face.
Oh, come on. You smoke tobacco. Why not convert you to marijuana?
well, what do they use for foci, do you think?
A gun.
Scythe.
See, tattoos are most likely are the most common one that they use.
I'm a really bad Jew then, if that's the case.
Where
That's
where-
not kosher. It's
what-
not part of the Talmud.
Well, like, as long as it's some sort of marking on the body, you can do. Where if you don't use ink, knives are the other thing that you use. Where you'll see a lot of Euthanatos out there with what looks like self-harm scars on their arms, until you begin to realize that those scars form shapes, and they'll use that to cast their spells through.
Ooh.
Along with that, what are some other, say, instruments that you play during funerals?
Organs?
Bagpipes.
Organs,
Electric control.
bells, drums, that kind of
Bagpipes.
stuff. Where if it's an
Metal
instrument that's
guitars.
associated with funeral rites, you can have a death bard like that.
I'll go with that.
Right?
I like Ryan's idea, like playing electric guitar at a
Drums.
funeral.
The drums.
Yo.
You get like a death metal drummer, Euthanatos, that's possible.
That sounds like a lit funeral, not gonna lie.
You
If
get-
you guys aren't headbanging at my funeral, then you shouldn't come.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just thinking about the Metallica album Injustice for All.
Yep.
Yes.
and like Eye of the Beholder. Dun, 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 dun.
You also get bones of the recently deceased when it comes to spells, where say, if you need a certain guy dead, you get the bones of one of his relatives, put that in your spell circle, and then use that to cause him to die of a heart attack.
Hey,
Hell
I got
yeah.
a fishbone, Gershman. I got a fishbone.
Put it in
Check
the
it
circle.
out.
Cane,
Oh, okay.
They'll use magic staffs, but they always appear as walking canes whenever they use these. So, like they imagine like the whole like the trope. What?
Hypothetically, couldn't they kill Cain like that?
With the cane? Oh, if they had Adam's bones or Abel's bones, but good fucking luck finding those.
I mean,
Oh,
yeah.
that would be so
any the people that he sired, right? 'Cause
Probably not an
technically he gives
antediluvian.
them
Well,
gives them
well,
their
if
VK.
you Brian, yeah, if you manage to kill antediluvian, you could use that to maybe break the curse that got put on him. But you need to kill antediluvian, and good fucking luck doing that.
Well, we did with Malkov.
There's a whole bunch of them in Torpor.
You say you killed Malkav, but you killed the guy who's literally abstract thought by this point.
I mean, yeah, but we got him out of
cat.
our abstract thought. Therefore, he needs to go to a different plane of existence. So we're
He
good.
gave up his body so he could exist as abstract geometry.
Hey, kid, you want a penis enlargement pill?
Basically,
He's the kind of guy to say that and
He,
shit.
he is everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
yep. But we made sure that he was nowhere at this very specific point in time, which was good.
Now, what's another thing that they'll use? Oddly enough, computers. Because in the modern day, you now have the Death Note in your laptop and on your phone that they can use. They looked at the virtual apps and said, that's not a bad idea using computers.
Just typed out KYS and then the
That's
dude
what
dies.
Literally
And you
just
enter it and the guy does
KYS,
it.
then-
Let's see.
Oh my
Dance,
god.
where a lot of like funerals that you do, like specifically with Africa, you'll get guys that are doing dances about the funeral rites. Where, once again, like there's a lot of like, oddly enough, a lot of music involved with the Euthanatos. Well, I guess it does make sense given like the ohm, like the universal rhythm that exists.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Got a
stuff
little bit of
involved.
similarity with the chorus, but they will not accept that.
Now, here's something you're gonna love. Dice, cards, and lots is another spellcasting focus that they'll use to emphasize the chance and random aspect of entropy. So, guess what? Gambit could also work as a Euthanatos mage, where you have a guy who's casting spells by, say, you have a mage where you, the player, have a deck of cards on the table with you. You draw cards, and depending on how good your poker hand is how much damage your spell does.
That's kind of
or
cool,
like-
actually.
Yeah.
Just have a Magic the Gathering player who's a Euthanatos and they just play mono black
And the
all
monster
the damn time.
and the monster becomes real when they use the card.
Yeah, literally. It's like, I'm going to tap 5 swamps and then I'm going to... Damn it, I haven't played Magic in literal... Like,
Or
2 or 3
Ryan
years.
has.
Hey, Ryan, help me out. What's a common mono black creature card? Shit.
I don't know.
Mono blue. Man,
He's fucking muted himself.
mono blue.
He's probably eating a sandwich.
See.
Cheese
Yep.
steak.
That's right.
Back
Back
other
hurts.
Other
Uh-oh.
foci. His back hurts. He's been laughing.
That's
his
his
guts out.
foci.
Yes.
That's his foci. His back hurts.
It's as drugs and poison is something else they use, but they're specifically referring to drugs that you could explicitly refer to as a poison. Most likely it's alcohol that they use.
Oh yeah, Gershman drinks this.
It's
No, I
as-
think I'll pass today, pal.
What? It's not fully filtered, so you just might die.
You also have say like the more like voodoo aspects of Euthanatos, where they'll cast spells through cigarettes, where they will blow smoke in your face and it will kill you after they do that.
Hell yeah. Poison gas, bro.
I honestly actually have thought of that already as something Gershwin would do. But he would do it
Literally, I
different.
gave you the drawing.
Like, quite literally, like, I was thinking that Gershwin is of crafty Agent 47, where he, like, sure, he doesn't mind, like, gutting somebody in an alleyway if he has to, but he would rather like stalk them, learn their habits, and then cast little flicks of entropy here and there just to fuck with the day, just enough where it would seriously injure or kill somebody. It's like, oh, hey, look, he always goes over to this pothole on this cart this time of day. What if I just, rusted that manhole cover just a little bit, and then he drives over it, wheel goes over, car breaks down, another car runs into him. Damn, that guy got killed. Sick. Easy peasy.
Well, I just read about the cigarettes. Cal, you know Lisa the Painful. It takes me back well, when did I have this thought? But it was this, I remember it was this, either this Reddit post or it might have even been G+, but it was somebody asking design a Lisa party member. And the one I came up with was this guy, Leroy Downs, where his entire fighting style was based on him smoking. As in, he smokes and smokes a cigar and breathes it in to give himself a nicotine buzz that gives him back his mana points, but also makes him stumble around so much that he falls out of the way of attacks, making them more evasive. He doesn't deal any damage. Instead, he just blows smoke in people's eyes to give them the blind status, punches them with the cigar in his hand to burn them and piss them off. Where he's a guy that's bumming around nicotine sick the entire fight and somehow survives, and his other party members win the fight.
I did not get that far into Lisa the Painful, I sadly will say.
Yeah. And it's because you don't like hard RPGs like that. You don't like ball busters.
Ball buster.
Well, then it was just depressing.
Now, here's the other foci that's scary. Eye contact. At high enough levels, a Euthanatos can bless his eyeballs or either pull them out and replace them with prosthetics. Where after he makes eye contact with you, it can just immediately kill you.
Hell yeah.
If looks could kill.
So
literally
a step above the Assamites, because the Assamite has to touch you for the kills to go off. A Euthanatos just needs to look you in the eye, and that's it. It's as easy as it takes.
God, I love Euthanatos.
Yeah.
See, also the fetters of a ghost that you have pass on. Fire is also something you have. You have fire mages amongst you, Euthanatos, throwing fireballs at people.
I can't really do that in public, but it's fun.
Just do a lighter.
Like I'm saying, you can turn the lighter in your hand into a sword of fire with your magic.
No, or it has to be more subtle, where it's you have the lighter, you put it to the ground, and it trails and whoosh, to the guy.
Just incendiaries instantly.
If you want to be Yoko Kurama from Yu Yu Hakusho, plants are also work as this. Specifically, any sort of plant, fruit, or whatever that has an association with death. So, say certain roses, the red spider lily from Japan, the Easter lily, figs, grapes, pomegranates. You can use those as spells.
I don't know. I'm just really looking forward to 1939, just walking into the street at midnight with a Tommy gun or a MP40 and just gunning down an officer's car.
See, probably the most traditional magic kind of thing, mantras. You just chant a mantra over and over. After you do a certain amount of repetitions or get into the mood far enough, that will cause the chaos magic to happen.
Ooh, so, that German song.
Oh yeah, if I were to sing Mottei von Maki de Messe.
It'll be like the old Mickey Mouse cartoons where stuff starts happening around you to the rhythm of the song that you're chanting.
Wonder how fish did had seen it.
Killing me softly with the song. And
yeah,
it literally is a murder ballad about Captain McKeith, so...
Then poor Ludwig is gonna, try nervously sing along and shit, but bad stuff starts happening around him, and he's like, I shouldn't turn around. Oh shit, I'm turning around. Why is there a guy?
Meditation, where if you're a mage, you're going to meditate anyway. Bombs away. Everybody has this on their list, meditation.
Yippee!
Purification rites. Name any sort of purification rite that is a spell.
Awesome.
And it works when it's a Euthanatos, where you threw salt on the man's corpse. Okay, now he won't come back as a ghost. He won't come back as a zombie now. Sacrifice. Where taking something and then burning it in the honor of a death deity, even if you know that the deity technically isn't real, it will cause the magic to go off.
Nice.
And here's another thing that's going to blow you away. Sex.
Now, actual Black Widow character.
Where, the orgasm itself, like the verbena and like the cold of ecstasy, can be used as a spell. Because, after all, that's semen in your hand that's not going to be used to make a child. And that's cells dying in your hand as you speak. Same thing with women's period blood, where that's dead eggs inside of that blood. You can use that as a rite as well. They have a little bit of overlap with the verbena in that regard.
It's a bit yucky, but I put it in the test tube. Here, Gershwin, you could use this more than me.
Yes. And lastly, water. Just water.
Just
Vasa?
drown a motherfucker.
Yeah.
I make my beer out of that. Don't waste it. I can make that to make a drink.
Gershwin outside with somebody's head in a rain barrel and a scarf wrapped around their face.
Yes.
I can't bruise that.
Yeah. And you have a big list of weapons in here too, like traditionally used by the Euthanatos. Blowguns, the cat claws that ninjas use, garrote wire, piano wire, katars, the Chris dagger. I love very, 1001 Arabian Nights kind of themes when it comes to these weapons. But, you know what? I think you're kind of overthinking this. Kyle, do you know this murder method that leaves no evidence behind, besides the track mark that you used it in? Coffee.
Really?
If you inject coffee into a man's bloodstream, once it reaches their heart, it will kill them. And upon the coroner's report, if they observe the body, it will leave no trace in the body. They won't know what kills you. You'll just have, quote-unquote, died suddenly from having coffee injected into you.
This is quite interesting.
Well,
classified information.
that's interesting.
Johnny.
Here it is.
So, bitte mehr. Wo ist die Kaffee hier?
So there it is. You just need to walk around with a bunch of needles in your pockets.
9?
Alright. And then you have spells in here where I think some of the stuff like summoning the spirit and balance the scales are a little bit self-explanatory. Like balance the scales is entropy 2 and life 2, or it could be matter of forces, where it's basically sense worm is what that is. Or you can use it, say, if there's a lot of chaos happening around you, you can instead use that spell to stop the chaos happening around you instead. Where there's too much stuff going on, you can do like Daffy Duck in the Looney Tunes cartoon. You just raise your hands and say stop, and then all this stuff stops happening around you. Yep.
I like it.
Let's read this one. Iron Avatar. Life 3, Matter 3, Mind 2, Prime 2. So what this does for you. By attuning herself to the Kali, or the Grand Wheel, the guys, the Mother Goddess, as sharp blades will form on her nimble hands, so will they appear on yours. You turn yourself into Wolverine with this.
Okay,
awesome,
cool.
Right? Where, Kyle, if you had superpowers, would you mind having that one?
I mean, they would be a little bit inconvenient at times, but if I needed to throw down, it'd be pretty good.
But Kyle, here's the thing. All right, mechanically, 6 extra dice to your melee and dexterity pool.
Jesus.
And it adds 1 point of health per success you rolled on say, your spellcasting Arret roll when you do this. So that is your Arret score difficulty 8. So it's going to go off no matter what, but for every success you get on that's an extra level of health you get.
Nice.
And that goes a long way. If you're doing damage rolls in your game, all my homies fucking hate damage rolls. That means that your Euthanatos will just not go down in some combat scenarios, especially if you're making go on your soak rolls.
I really am excited to play a Euthanatos now.
Let's see here. You also have a spell in here that lets you travel into the underworld, the Shadowlands. You get to talk to Hades, but it turns out no, he's not Hades, you idiot. That's Karen, the main protagonist.
I need to speak to your manager.
No, I thought I get to talk to Zagreus.
Yeah. You get to talk to all these
I
guys.
thought I get to talk to Ligma.
There it is.
No,
Lickable balls.
I've been playing a lot of Hades. I want to talk to if I go to the underworld, I want to talk to Zagreus.
See, my dad won't let me step outside and touch grass.
That's quite literally the game.
and then you ready for the big damn spell? I'll read this in its entirety. The Burning Lotus. Prime 5, Entropy 4, Forces 3, with the option of adding Spirit 3 or Mind 2 to the spell as well. Sometimes sacrifice is the only way to win. This catastrophic spell, perfected during the later Himalayan wars against the Akashic Brotherhood, pulls life energy from within the Wheel of Life itself and their surroundings. Then channels it into a huge elemental storm, which withers, burns, and ultimately consumes everything nearby. Advanced variants blast through the gauntlet as well. This exceedingly vulgar effect funnels quintessence from within the mage himself, setting up a vortex that wraps the resulting quote-unquote package in a forces-spawned explosion of fire, water, and ice. The vortex disintegrates everything in the blast area by drawing its quintessence out, then scours the vicinity within the storm. This maelstrom consumes the mage himself and inflicts forces-based activated damage on everything within 20 feet per success. Spirits suffered this damage in power rather than health levels. Every point of quintessence in the Euthanatos' personal reserves adds an additional health level to the damage total. Anything killed or destroyed by the Burning Lotus is scattered forever, its spirit lingering, but its form is dust. So you could have a Euthanatos Jihadi who uses this spell that obliterates your avatar and forces you to reset and reincarnate.
So quite literally, I just need to just sneak into the Reichstag and then boom, no more World War II.
This is Vegeta's final explosion from Dragon Ball Z, is what this is. And this explosion is fucking huge, by the way, too. And after that explosion happens, an immediate paradoxical effect will happen that will wipe away all the destruction you did to the buildings, but the people you killed with it stay dead.
That's
great. So it's an invisible, inaudible explosion that nobody will notice.
Legalize nuclear bombs.
So that's the ace in the hole with the Euthanatos.
I shoved the nuke up my pussy.
Yes. and then there's all this like books that you can read too, where it's all like genius, smart stuff they want you to read. They want you to read Encyclopedia of Death by Beatrice and Robert Casterbaum. And there's one fiction book in here, The Sword and the Flute by David R. Kinsley. I don't know that one, but I might check it out. And I also say, if you want to get in the mood, read the poetry of Ambrose Bierce, Percy Shelley, Lord George Byron, and Sylvia Plath on top of that. Or other morbid humanist and romantic kind of poetry as well.
So I'm quite on par with the whole Mac the Knife theme.
They also say they want you to listen to Dead Can Dance songs on a loop. When he plays guys.
And some Oingo
that's actually...
Boingo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
no one lives forever.
Or just any sort of doom metal you can think of too. I'll add that to the list.
Cool.
Metallica.
Yeah. That video that went viral of the Doom of the Pentagram singer like having the stage presence look in his eye.
Damn.
There it is. And there we have it. Do you have any more ideas on these guys?
Dude, I've got so many fucking... I'm so excited to play Gershwin. I can't even fucking say it. I'm excited to be a little shit saboteur that just goes around fucking up people's day for being jackasses. I'm so fucking ready for it.
I wouldn't mind playing a Revenant hopping body to body to body.
That actually, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, yeah.
Keep going until your duty is done, and then you can pass on.
Yep.
And then I'm just playing a fat nerdy kid that wants to make
my duty will never be done.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this...
and there is also the character concept of Gershwin that Vic drew for me. I quite like how it's coming out so far. So, like, as he said, he actually had the entropy thing on, like, the band of the cigarette. And I also like the... What did we see, like, the bow tie was? Because I remember you had something for the bow tie.
I don't know. I just kind of thought, like, oh, look, you said he had a suit. So I was like, okay, do like a goofy Jack Skellington kind of bow tie basically. I know you don't like Tim Burton, but come on, it fits for the character.
It does with the character. Like I was thinking, like, because Shadow Wizard Money Gang has always been like something that's drawn me to Mage, and like Euthanatos is the best way to go about that. Like quite literally in like the whole video for like the Shadow Wizard Money Gang, the anime. There's like after the legalized nuclear bombs bit, like there's that skeleton with the purple cloak, the glowing eye just lights up a cigar. That's what I was thinking. Like Gershon on the prowl does that shit. Flips up a purple hood, has a skull mask on, lights up a cigar, it just aces somebody. It's fucking great.
But the idea I can have with like an NPC with the Euthanatos is, say you're doing your whole Vampire the Masquerade bit, and as you're going around, you have like your elder who's been around. He says, "Oh, he's got the hunger of ages. He's been around for 1,000 or so years, and he's super powerful vampire on par with Mithras and everything." And all of a sudden, he just disappears one day, and nobody knows what happened to him. And then it leads to you doing this whole investigation where it ultimately results in you finding out that, say, a Euthanatos member came over and killed him off because he's doing too well and he's lived for too long, stopping the progress of too many vampires or other people that could be living outside of his shadow. That's what I'll do. And the best part for me, what I would do with the Euthanatos, you never catch this guy, you probably don't even meet him. That he does his damage, he dips, he's gone, you never discover what he's doing. Is what it is. You only ever find out the aftermath at the end.
Yep.
Oh, your grandma died? That gets 5 big booms. Boom, boom, boom. I'm sorry, but it's too funny.
You saw the thing.
dude, I died from cringe, but thinking about it's fucking funny,
Oh man.
I'm sorry, it's too funny.
So there we go. I think that actually wraps it up for the Euthanatos. So we end on a pretty clean note.
Yeah.
Hell yeah! Now, Johnny, you're gonna piss on me and make fun of me for playing an SOE. You fucking normie. You NPC.
You did pick the normie option.
You NPC, and it's like, come on, man. I just want to play a wholesome character in a bleak setting.
Okay, you're the only Sons of Aether. There can only be one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna play that. I'm playing a fucking psychopath. Not really a psychopath. He's quite. He knows what he's supposed to be fucking doing.
I'm just playing a kid that's too wholesome, and he may or may not be the nephew of Herman Goering.
Good job.
Yep.
Anyway.
Poor kid. Now he's gonna be fucking hunted.
Euthanatos.
You the fucking what?
Fucking kill something.
There it is.
Yep.
There it is. And now we're in the home stretch of Red Cross Russia.
Yep. Oh boy.
The third act.
That's gonna get rough.
Guess who's gonna spend all their experience points if I haven't already?
Yep.
Yeah, I should probably do the same.
What's on the schedule next time? The Verbena.
We get to talk about period blood and feminism.
We're talking about the convention that pisses me off the most.
Basically.
It's because Johnny hates women.
Yeah.
Ginger snaps the faction. You know that disgusting werewolf movie?
Which one?
Ginger Snaps, the one where it's like the werewolves are like a literal metaphor to female puberty. It's super weird and nasty.
I didn't.
Yeah, you told me about this one before.
I'm not going to probably.
Yeah. It is.
Anyway.
Yeah. There it is. It's just like you paint a picture with your pussy blood, and now you cast a spell through it.
Yeah. Let's cut it off here before we spoil the Verbena episode too much.
All right.
Sperm.
Kill people, burn shit,
everyone.
fuck school. Good night.
Au revoir.
Good night, guys.
Servus.
Legalize nuclear bombs.
Yeah.